Father, from across Africa and beyond, we want to thank you for another opportunity to gather physically and virtually. We commit the entire dialogue this afternoon in your hands, into your loving hands. We commit in your hands the presenters today, the technical team, facilitators, and the entire audience. We ask for your blessing over this afternoon. In your matchless name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Godfrey, and we say amen. On that note, allow me now invite Ms. Shenina Ahebwa. She is the country manager of Human Capital International. Ahebwa, you're most welcome.
Very much, Charles, our moderator for this evening, for this afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you again to the second day, our day 2 of the Sustainable SMEs Focused Dialogue. Human Capital International is once again honored to host you this afternoon at this event. And if you didn't attend yesterday, I'm very sure that you haven't missed much or a lot. You can join in today and be able to attend. Human Capital International is a capacity development organization that mainly focuses on the women, the youth, SMEs, and the corporate institutions. We mainly focus on entrepreneurship, strategic leadership, strategic thinking, customer service, among others. And that's why we are able to have these conversations over and over. This afternoon, for the Sustainable SMEs Focused Dialogue, this is not the end of us. These discussions are continuing on all our various platforms, but also in the articles that we get to share out every week. So this is not the end of us getting to discuss or share and getting to see the top the SMEs at large. At Human Capital International, we believe that it's upon each one of us to change the narrative. And that's why we are having this event. Right from the summit to the dialogue, this dialogue that we're having right now, and also for the other programs that we shall be carrying out or that we carry out, like the Career and SME Startups Intelligence Series. I thank you once again, but I know we couldn't have done this without the support of our sponsors and partners. Love to thank EcoBank, our title sponsors, Elevate, Sheraton Kampala Hotel for always being our host, Agricultural Business Initiative, ABI, Rock Telecom, we appreciate you, Shared Value Initiative, Jim Roberts and Associates, Events Warehouse, East African Business Week Digital, and the Vision Group. We wouldn't have done this without your support. Ladies and gentlemen, I won't take a lot of our time. Let's get to dive into today's discussion and also get to see that we take this to a whole other level.
Thank you, Ahebwa. Thanks a lot for that remarks ushering us into the discussion. And like I said yesterday, we had many discussions, and some of those issues will crisscross into discussion today. But we have very fresh presenters, as well as, of course, interspersed with some of the people who were here yesterday as well. One of them is Annette Kihuguru, who is the MD of EcoBank.
Good morning, people in Uganda and those across Africa and beyond. and good afternoon if it's already afternoon. My names are Annette Wabnoha Kihuguru, and I am the Managing Director of EcoBank. And I want to say we had a good time yesterday with a lot of discussions that happened on the theme Women and Youth Focused SMEs, Finance and Technology Options. We had two of our speakers from our group, ETI in Togo, and they really took time to discuss on these two key topics. So distinguished speakers and panelists, participants, both here and those attending virtually, permit me to welcome you all to this virtual meeting that has been running now the second day. I bring you warm greetings from the Pan-African Bank here and from our colleagues in the other affiliates across Africa. For those who are not well versed with EcoBank, EcoBank is an integral bank offering financial services since 2008 here in Uganda, with branches in Kampala, Entebbe, Jinja, and in Mbarara. And holistically, as a Pan-African bank, we operate in 33 countries in Africa, having obtained also a license in France, in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in Johannesburg, of bank services and solutions, which includes deposits, accounts, loans, cash management, advisory services, trade, securities, wealth, and asset management. EcoBank is the largest bank on the continent. And for that matter, we are proud to be part of the work of human capital. And we've been doing this for the last 3 years with them, and focusing mainly on inherent challenges in Africa. So we are proud that we are still the main sponsors for this event. And the reason why we are the main sponsors for this event is because EcoBank, the purpose of EcoBank as a group is to contribute to the economic and social development of the African continent. And these two particular topics that we are discussing, we discussed yesterday and today, are very key to actualizing this purpose of EcoBank. So without wasting a lot of your time, because we did speak yesterday, I want to say, let's all listen to what is being discussed, and if it can make a difference in our lives, our countries, and the rest of Africa, EcoBank will be proud about that. I thank you, and I hand over to you.
Thank you, Annette. Thanks a lot for those short remarks. Except you need to change the word "if" it can make a difference, and say when it makes a difference. Because I'm sure that...
Thank you for the correction. When it makes a difference.
Thanks a lot. Much obliged. Now I'm going to take the opportunity to invite our first presenter, who is James Onyoin. James Onyoin is the founding partner, J.H. Robert and Associates, and his topic that he will be presenting on is unpacking the taxes, tariffs in the intercontinental free trade area.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator, and thanks for that introduction. It's just a continuation from where we stopped yesterday, so it's easier for me. Much of the ground has already been covered. So I'm from HLB Jim Roberts. I'm one of the partners, a senior partner, and we are auditors, accountants, tax advisors, and general business advisors. I'm happy to be here to discuss with you the topic today, unpacking the taxes, tariffs in the intercontinental free trade area. So the way we are going to do it, I want us first of all to see what's happening in the intercontinental free trade area. What are the initiatives which are coming up? And then I'll also try to bring it home to East Africa, because we have the East African community, to give a local example and see how much has been done so far and how is this likely to link up with what's being done in the intercontinental free trade area. So you're welcome. This is a topic I'm very excited about because it is a chance for Africa to really leap forward. According to a World Bank report in 2020, they stated that the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement will create the largest free trade area in the world, measured by number of participating countries. The pact connects 1.3 billion people across 55 countries with a combined gross domestic product of estimated at US dollars 3.2 trillion. So it's really big. It's a great idea. It's a big idea. It's exciting to think about it and be part of this. Of course, currently Africa accounts for just 2% of the global trade. So we need to do a lot to improve our trade. And only 17% of the exports are done within the continent, intracontinental. When you compare this to what's happening in Asia, for example, 59% of their exports are to fellow countries within Asia. And in Europe, 68% of the exports are for countries within Europe. So you can see we have a long journey to make, 17% compared with the nearly 70% in Europe. In brief, 54 of the 55 countries have signed the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is very good, very encouraging. The exception is only Eritrea, which had not signed. And the African Continental Free Trade Area was launched in January this year, and the trading started. It's estimated that let me first say that in January this year, 35 countries had already ratified the treaty, which is very encouraging. You can see those in green had already ratified, and those in gray are part of those who signed, and only one country had not signed. So that's quite encouraging in terms of commitments by African Union countries to join the free trade area. This particular agreement aims to reduce costs and enable Africa to integrate further into global supply chains. It will eliminate 90% of the tariffs. You can imagine, that's big, 90% of the tariffs, focus on outstanding non-tariff barriers, and create a single market. When it happens, like the moderator said, with a free movement of goods and services. So that's really a very, very well thought out agreement. It's going to cut red tape and also simplify customs procedures, which will bring significant gains to the African people. Beyond the trade, the pact also addresses the movement of persons and labor, competition, investment, and issues around intellectual property. So what is the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area doing? They are putting mechanisms in place to facilitate intra-Africa trade. That is simplifying customs procedures and so forth. They are working with the Afrexim Bank to put in place a Pan-African payments and settlement platform. They're working with commercial banks in Africa to raise about $1 billion for trade finance to facilitate, especially SMEs, especially women, to facilitate that trade, and also the youth. And also introducing digital enabled platforms we heard a lot about digital platforms yesterday, and it's these digital platforms which will enable Africans to trade amongst themselves. So why is this a big global game changer? Why is it so important for us to go into this? It is an expectation which we know will happen, that the African continental free trade area will significantly reduce poverty. In fact, according to a World Bank report, it was estimated that about 100 million people will be lifted out of poverty. 70 million of those are those who are currently in moderate poverty, and 30 million of those who are in extreme poverty. That's within the next 15 years, by 2035. It is also estimated that positive economic outcomes will be many and varied, especially when you trade with each other. You are able to improve your incomes, and your GNPs will increase. Women stand to gain. They participate a lot, of course, in SMEs, which provide 90% of the jobs in Africa. If you take, for example, you see, once you don't have harmonized tax systems, for example, tariffs and so on, there can be smuggling between states. And that smuggling between countries, for example, most of the people involved are women and the youth. And if this can be sorted out, then formal trade will come in, and this should improve the livelihoods of those people. It will also promote good governance, and this, of course, will bring integrity into the trade. And then it will also help us to really tackle the negative impacts of the COVID-19. And then, of course, this is really a very good example. While other countries are trying to become individualistic, Africa is trying to come together, which is a very good and positive development. We also need to acknowledge that there will be challenges. And one of these is African countries, of course, there's a lot of dependence on commodity production and exports, which means if I'm producing coffee beans and the other person is also producing coffee beans, it may be difficult to trade within each other. So solutions will lie around while increasing the value chains, the value addition into products. Lack of diversification can also be a challenge. And then also tariffs and non-tariff barriers. We shall look at some specific examples, especially in East Africa, so that we understand what we're talking about. And of course, there's a big problem of infrastructure, transport connections within these countries. I'm happy, of course, Uganda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have started building some roads in Congo. Maybe that will open some roads to take goods to and from Congo, Democratic Republic. And of course, other issues, especially around logistics. So these challenges revolve around this. Implementation can be a challenge. We have to be cognizant of this fact. You remember what President Paul Kagame said in 2017 to the African heads of state. He said, there's a crisis of implementation in Africa. So we need to deal with that if we are to realize the real fruits of the African continental free trade area. Infrastructure, as I've already mentioned. And then there's also an issue to do with the heterogeneous economies. We tend, like I already mentioned, if we're all producing coffees, then there can be a challenge. And also there's an issue of some economies are big, others are small. So there's always that worry that if we go into this, maybe we'll lose because we'll then become net importers from the other country. And of course, issues around equity, there will be need to move slowly and see how these tariffs can be lifted, but not affect the very small scale farmers who may be disadvantaged. And of course, the issue of non-tariff barriers and disparity of incomes, I think I've mentioned that already amongst states. I want to just mention specifically the challenges to the SMEs in the implementation of this pact. One of them is capacity. Of course, the big companies have a lot of capacity and there's less capacity among the SMEs, and the big ones can take advantage of that and actually make sure the small ones may not benefit a lot. Access to finance is another one. I'm happy that EcoBank is here. Maybe they will be trying to sort out that. Foreign competition, the foreigners may try to dump here goods, substandard goods even, and cause problems within our area. And then of access to power is also an issue. Infrastructure, when you talk of roads, railways, I talked about that, and also loss of intellectual property, because the big multinationals can take advantage and take a lot of intellectual property. Now, what's the East African experience? Of course, the East African community was formed in 1967 between Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. But unfortunately, 10 years later, it collapsed, but was reestablished in 1999. And then we admitted 3 more members, Rwanda and Burundi in 2007, South Sudan in 2016, and DRC joining soon. So what has been the experience here? Let's talk about tax harmonization within the East African region. I just want to quote from, I was fortunate enough to attend the dialogue on the post-budget dialogue, where a report was discussed assessing the progress made on tax harmonization. And these were the findings, which were quite interesting. And this study was done by CIATINI, the Southern and Eastern African Trade Information and Negotiations Institute, in partnership with other colleagues within the region. One is that there's demonstrated political will to widen and deepen economic cooperation within the East African countries. And this is commendable, because then this means that actually this kind of cooperation can be extended to the continent as well. And domestic tax harmonization is provided for in the East African community. And why do you harmonize? You harmonize because you want to avoid risks, potential risks associated with engaging in tax competition, trying to offer lower and lower rates, especially as tax incentives. If you look at the direct taxes, they are generally harmonized within the East African region, apart from one small item of stamp duty in Rwanda that had not been harmonized. Value-added tax generally harmonized, except for Kenya, which has, the rest are now on 18% rate of tax for VAT, while Kenya has 16%. Excise duty, generally, work is going on, but a lot to be done. Tax incentives, Kenya and Uganda generally have automatic tax exemptions when somebody qualifies for them, when an investor qualifies for them. Tanzania goes for a system where they have to approve, the minister has to approve them. And of course, there are many other things where there are a lot of similarities, especially between Uganda and Tanzania. Now, the areas where we need to think of going forward in this East African region, the Code of Conduct Against Harmful Tax Competition has not been adopted or implemented. And this was prepared about 10 years ago. This is quite worrying according to that report. And this needs to be actually revisited now, because it is about 10 years. Some of the things may need to be adjusted. So we need this code to be implemented so that there's no harmful competition between the states. There's a need to strengthen the monitoring and reporting on progress.
Hello, James.
Yes, please.
Would you want to clarify what you mean by harmful tax administration? Because the lay person listening out there to you might think that every tax is normal. There is no much problem apart from the fact that we all fear to pay taxes.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, moderator, for that. Thank you, moderator, for that intervention. Yes, taxes can be, and incentives can be harmful. For example, a country might say, if you come to our country, we can give you, as an investor, you put in maybe $100,000. We will give you, an exemption, no tax, no corporation tax for 10 years, and so forth. Another country might try to outcompete them within the region and say, for us, we shall give you tax-free exemption of all your things coming in, tax-free holiday for 20 years. Now, investors may tend to go to the next country, which is talking about 20 years. Now, if you are within the same group, we should actually talk together and agree on the same rate so that you don't distort the decisions that are going to be made by investors. That's what I was trying to talk about. Thank you for that. And then, of course, there's a need to strengthen the monitoring and reporting. And you see, even for the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, there's now an effort to make sure there is a good system for that, and even for reporting violations of the pact. That is also done by that is provided for in the African Free Continental Agreement. There's also a need to develop an online platform that tracks tax amendments across the region. And also, for example, the good thing like now, there's some consultation amongst the East African states, but it's also important that when these amendments are being done, especially for domestic taxes, they should be discussed. At least for customs, they're usually discussed at the East African level, so that we move in the same direction. Maybe the other thing to clarify is that the rates do not really have to become the same, but the principle behind it should be the same. For example, if you say you are taxing somebody's income, what do you include in that income? Yeah, that has to be, the principle behind it has to be the same. For example, it could be saying it is income that you have earned within the country, within this state. That is what is taxed on you, and not each country having a different principle in which they base it on. And of course, around the estimation of cost-benefit analysis, I was trying to say, as we carry out most of this harmonization and so on, a lot of studies have to be done so that we keep within what is beneficial to the countries. Thank you. I've been watching my watch. I did want to overshoot your time, but I'll be happy to take more questions at the end of this.
Thank you very much, James. You've actually not yet exhausted your time, but like I said, it's all good when you can spare some time. So we are going to get the next presenter online, and the next presenter is going to be Tiki Bernard. Tiki Bernard, the CEO of Shared Vision Initiative, all the way from South Africa. The topic is leadership, value-based systems management, and SMEs.
Hello, Charles. I'm
How
here.
are you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm doing very well.
Good to know that you're doing well. We cannot take it for granted.
Thank you so much. And I just thought, thank you. It's really great to be here. So I'm just going to share my screen and then I'll start my talk. But I just want to say to Dr. James, that was really very insightful, because I really believe that the power lies in the collective. So we have to work together to get the AFCFTA ready. I've got my 20 minutes. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Okay, so my name is Tiki Barnard and I'm the CEO and founder of the Shared Value Africa Initiative. We are a part of a global network. We've got partners in India, Hong Kong, Australia, and in America. And we a Pan-African organization. We were 3 years old on the 25th of May this year. And our mandate is to advocate for the adoption of the shared value business management model. But first, I want to say that the purpose of business, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today, is that the purpose of business is to create value. You know, we do that through work, services, products, sell or trade to customers, and we capture some of those values and we make our profit, and we become sustainable. In the real world, outside of all of these economic theory that we have, every business is successfully successful exactly to the extent that it does something others cannot. So your idea needs to be innovative and unique. But on that note, what I want to do is to share with you, just a 2-minute video on why we as an organization, was established.
What is it about Africa? Some see struggle. We see opportunity. This is where we thrive. Africa is a land of contrasts. Hundreds of millions of our people live without access to clean water and electricity. Yet we have more entrepreneurs than any other continent, and by 2050, half of the world's youth will be African. Africa's been busy. We're urbanizing, embracing technology. We're sprinting forward with some of the fastest growing economies in the world. It's time for African-driven solutions to African problems. It's time to seize the moment and create our own narrative to build the Africa we want. Business has the power to bring about change at scale and make money doing so. The shared value business model reconnects business success with social progress. Shared value is also about partnerships, building business networks that create inclusive growth. The power of collaboration should never be underestimated. If we can bring together businesses and communities from across Africa with a shared purpose, we can build economic value and, most importantly, value for society. It's time for Africa to become the economic powerhouse of the future. Become part of Africa's most powerful shared value business network. Join the Shared Value Africa initiative today.
So thank you. As I said to you, that's our reason, for the work that we do on the continent, that we believe there are so many opportunities and so many possibilities. So our mandate, as I shared, is to advocate for the private sector adoption of the shared value business management concept, and that is to create economic value and value for society, what we call profit with purpose. So the concept of creating shared value was hails from Harvard University. It was developed by Professor Michael Porter and Mark Kramer, and they've worked with huge organizations and in the corporate social investment and the corporate social responsibility space, and realized that business has an enormous opportunity to actually create social impact. So they came up, and this is the definition for it, is policies and practices that enhance the competitiveness of a company. So what do we put together from policies and practices perspective as a company that will enhance our competitiveness while we actually advancing the communities in which we operate as well? So we believe as shared value practitioners that we can transform business through creating shared value. And the role of business, I'm sure everybody on this call today will agree with me, has to change. We need to, as business, we need to create value for our stakeholders, not only our shareholders. We've seen the shift from a shareholder capitalism to stakeholder capitalism, where we really have to engage with every single stakeholder in our organization. We need to create economic value, because the only way that we're going to shift our continent to its real rightful place on the global on the global platform is for all of us from a business perspective, is to create that value for society. That's what we have to do. We've got to make our money, create economic value as organizations, but we also have to create value for society. We need to create those inclusive supply and value chains that we work with. We need to create that profit. That's what we always say, create your economic value, which is your profit, with purpose. That is what you do from a societal perspective. And it's not, I have to reiterate that when we create value, it is not about profit only. So just a quick one on our work streams from a shared value perspective. We do research, we create these networks, and we connect businesses together in order to be able to scale. and we advocate, which is one of our biggest pillars. We work extensively with young entrepreneurs to try and take them through the strategic side of their business into the operational side and then into the people side in order for them to build sustainable businesses. We have a lot of engagement platforms that we create, and we also have our big event, the same one as Human Capital International. We do a big summit at the end of the year called the Africa Shared Value Leadership Summit. So our current projects I just quickly want to talk about, because we're going to talk about that today, and specifically about women SMEs. And I'm sitting here in front of you today as a woman SME. So we work with with our entrepreneurs. That we created the African Entrepreneurship Forum. We've got our shared value training that we do. We have an investor readiness workshop that we give to build this pipeline of African entrepreneurs. And I'm saying that because I'm tired of investors telling me that there are no African entrepreneurs that they can, that they can support and invest in. We work with the Pan Africa Chamber of Commerce. We're busy developing an information sharing app for the AFCFTA. And then obviously, I'm not going to talk about all of these. Gender equality is something, as a woman-run organization, that's very important to us. So let me share some facts, which is, it came from yesterday from Annette and Charles and Josephine. Some facts about our young leaders in sub-Saharan Africa. We obviously, as you heard from our video, have the highest rate of entrepreneurship. Yet most of our entrepreneurs are unable to grow their businesses. And this is particularly so for women-owned organizations. And again, I was astounded to see when I read about this, that in 2019, less than 5% of venture capitalist funding, went to companies where it was women co-founders, and I think for me, it's almost unforgivable, if I can say that, as an activist for women, that the venture capitalists can't see the value in these women-run organizations. So yes, and also what Annette said yesterday as well, this funding gap of almost 42 billion, that's needed for our SMEs in Africa that's women-owned. And yes, as far as COVID-19 is concerned, we know that a lot of our female-led SMEs is really struggling already, and some of them have closed down because they had to take on additional responsibilities. And again, going back to our venture capitalists, technology, again, has not attracted or retained as many female entrepreneurs. It's not that they're not there. It's just that our, because of gender bias, it's not the value of the women driving the business is not seen by our VCs. So I love this the African report a while ago actually came up, and I love this headline that they had, which I think is so true today of where we are. And we spoke a little bit about it yesterday, but that investment for women-led businesses is the missing ingredient in African entrepreneurship. It really is. And then the World Bank tells us that we can unlock the potential of women's businesses to become a major driver of economic growth and poverty reduction. And then UN Women tells us that 75% of the positions in parliament are held by men. And then I sometimes have to say, is that maybe a reason why women are not, getting their rightful place at the table? I'm sorry for the technical team. I can't continue with this, with my presentation. Can the technical team maybe help me? Hello?
Our technical team. What problem are you finding, Tiki?
I can't continue to my next slide. Maybe can I stop sharing for a second? Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. I see them trying to work on the machine.
Okay, let me just, yeah, okay.
In a bit.
Sorry about that. Let me try I'll try from my side again, if that's okay with the technical team. Nope, I can't get it. Okay, let me see. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, let me just quickly go to where I was. Thank you for that. Sorry about that. Yeah, women in the AFCFTA. So I think, Dr. James, really thank you for sharing all of that information. And we know that, and I think Annette also said it yesterday, is that women make up the vast majority of the informal cross-border traders in Africa. But yet, you know, we are really, I can see so many barriers for us as women from an AFCFTA perspective. If we look at the non-tariff barriers, which James has spoken about now, which is really great, because I see that the AFCFTA has started tradebarriers.africa, where you can do online reporting, you know, if you're having problems from a non-tariff barrier perspective. But then there's other challenges that women SMEs also face, is the harassment, you know, the misinformation and the confiscation at goods that happens at border posts. But one thing that I think for me that is really good to see is that the AFCFTA has recognized the importance of gender equality, which is really, you know, great for us as women SMEs. And also the fact that it is about inclusive socio-economic development, gender equality, and structural transformation. And then also in Article 27, where they talk about trade and services to improve the export capacity of formal and informal services, because that's the big thing for our women, youth, and youth service suppliers. So what are the barriers that face women SMEs today from a business perspective, and possibly from an AFCFTA perspective as well? Not possibly, definitely. So I've only selected 4 of them, and there are lots of them, I can assure you of that. So the first one is that lack of information, education, and training. We really need, as business, we need to support our SMEs. We need to, you know, if you think about it, leading through a crisis like the one we're in at the moment, I don't think that I would have made it if I didn't learn from my previous work experiences. So we need to make that information, and we need to make information available to our women SMEs, for our young leaders, to be able to make empowered decisions based on information. Limited or no access to finance. Thank you, EcoBank, for Elevate. We need so much more of that, because on the sub-Saharan Africa, we've got 350 million people that still don't have access to finance. And part of that is also some of our women SMEs. So we can't do enough as far as that is concerned. Then talk about, and this can be a complete conversation on its own, but is about negative attitudes and gender bias. So society dictates in many ways and judge the capabilities of our young people and women. And I just want to say is that we need to give our young people and women a voice and a seat at the decision-making table, because so many decisions, as you saw, 75% of men in government, 75% of leadership in government are male. You know, so many decisions are being made without the voices of women and our young leaders. And the last one is about access and connectivity. So the lack of access to connectivity will allow us not to create that prosperity that we need on the Africa continent. And specifically now also with the AFCFTA. So in sub-Saharan Africa, and this is a statistic that comes from GMSA, is that at the end of 2019, mobile internet adoption was standing at 26%. So if we want people to transact, from a banking perspective, as Dr. James has mentioned, as from the AFCFTA perspective, working to create this banking, facility, there need to be access and there need to be connectivity. So here I've just gone into some action that we need, what we need for our SMEs. So we need to change the narrative. We need to participate in all of us in changing the narrative. Our 75% of men in government as well. We need to change the narrative and we need to support and collaborate with our women SMEs and our young leaders. We need to drive SME funding. From an investor perspective, from a financial institution perspective, we really have to, and we need to remove those barriers, from accessing funding as well. We need to create these ecosystems to collaborate so that we can provide easy and accessible platforms for our women and young leaders. Financial literacy, yesterday, I think it was Charles that spoke about financial literacy and how important it is for our SMEs and also for our young leaders. It really is, because you've got to navigate through some really difficult waters in order to be able to where you want to be. But how do you get there? Because you need to be trained. Then market access, again, I think Charles also spoke yesterday about market access for our organizations, especially now with the AFCFTA as well. We need to identify those markets and we need to ask government, and large businesses must support the policy initiatives, so that we can take all of those constraints away. And James talking about the tax harmonizing, and instituting a tax system, it would really be great. And then energy and connectivity. Again, that is another huge problem on our continent, which we really, really need to look at if we want to make and that falls, I guess, James, under infrastructure development, because if we want to make a success of the AFCFTA, we really, really need to look at all of these things plus many more for our SMEs and for our young leaders. So on that note, before I play this video, I just want to say to everybody on this call today, as the leaders on the Africa continent, we must please support our SMEs and our young leaders, because they are going to be the ones that are going to create the Africa that we want. And thank you, Charles. I'm done. I just want to quickly play this video.
What is creating shared value all about? CSV is short for Creating Shared Value. It is a powerful business management concept that can promote companies to think differently about their approach to social and environmental issues. It is a strategy for addressing society's challenges through profitable business models. It's all about policies and practices that enhance the competitiveness of companies while improving social and environmental conditions in the regions in which they operate. CSV is not CSR. Creating shared value goes beyond philanthropy or corporate social responsibility. Shared value is not about personal values. It's not about sharing the value already created by firms. It is not CSI. It is not philanthropy or corporate social responsibility. Because in these cases, an organization's social contributions are not necessarily intrinsic to the bottom line. The concept of shared value recognizes that societal needs, not just conventional economic needs, define markets. It is also an important tool to align any business to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The social challenges identified by the goals provide a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. When businesses act as businesses, not as charitable donors, they can improve profitability while also improving key measures of societal well-being, environmental performance, public health and nutrition, affordable housing and financial security. Ultimately, it's all about weaving social need into the very fabric of business and creating both economic and societal value. Shared value is the most powerful practice that any company can use to achieve its purpose at scale. It increases company competitiveness and profitability by solving social problems. It helps to drive innovation by seeking opportunities for both business and society. And ultimately, it helps to create a sustainable future.
That's me. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I just want, in closing, to say thank you to Human Capital International for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tiki. That's a wonderful presentation. Thanks a lot, Tiki. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me now invite Rock Telecom, and he is right here already, and I think enthused by the Tiki presentation.
I was going to say, Madam Tiki and Dr. James with Jim Roberts have laid the platform, have laid the foundation for us, because he mentioned digital platforms, which is part of the business we do, online platforms, IoT platforms. And then she also mentioned connectivity, the need for connectivity if Africa is to progress. That's exactly what we do. That's our specialty. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My names are Alexander Bazirake with Rock Telecom. And our submission today is about, we'll call it the Rock Guardian. It's a CCTV solution, but I'm going to take a minute to introduce all the other products, our portfolio at Rock, and you'll see how it ties in with the rest of the discussion. All right? So Rock Telecom has been in existence since 2006. We are licensed by the Uganda Communications Commission, the UCC. Essentially, what we do is we sell voice. Actually, Rock was founded on as a voice farm, voice business. We sell data, and we're also on selling IP transit. As I mentioned, I want to give you sort of a highlight of some of the products we have that are extremely popular. The first one is the Rock Classic. This is a 60 GB home link. It's been, there's a 50% enhancement, but the Rock Classic is extremely popular. Much of the home segment, being at home with the lockdown, has been turning to some of these bundles. We call them bundled products. The Rock Plus, the Rock Unlimited, and of course the FTTH, which is, these are fiber links into people's homes. They're extremely popular around the city, into, in Nigeria, in Kira, the rest of them have these are fiber links, real fiber links into people's homes. All right, we have the Rock Spot, which is the public Wi-Fi, which is simply, at hotels and hostels, where you have students that want to access the internet.
And now homes during the lockdown. And we have Rock Enterprise, which is, these are DIA links. These are dedicated internet access links into the homes, very similar to FTTH, but these are to the offices and to the homes. Then we have our, as Mr. Dr. James with Jim Roberts alluded to, the digital products. These are the IoT products, highly specialized. But the point here is to try to find a way to use these products, these IoT products, to address some of the core issues, the core problems we face here in Africa. For example, the Connected Farmer is targeted at the agribusiness, at the agricultural sector. It improves the relationship between the farmer, the dairy farmer, for example, and the factories, or the dairy farmer and the milk factories. By collecting information on a regular basis, how much was delivered, how much is owed,
we get to build a record on exactly how productive a particular farmer is. Now, this is useful if we have other players like the banks that want to advance loans. We can use this to build a credit score, which can be extremely beneficial to the rest of our partners as they sort of venture into this field. All right, we have the stock visibility solution. This is mainly in the pharmaceutical industry. As products move around, we have to find a way to track them. So we use that as a mechanism, as a tool to do that. We have the e-vouchering solution, which has been particularly useful in agricultural projects, in the agricultural sector, moving fertilizer around. Sometimes we use them in the humanitarian sector to track NFIs, we call them, which are non-financial items, to places like Nachivale, mosquito nets, basins, and the rest of that. We can even embed, it's an alphanumeric code, we can even embed mobile money messages. In other words, it can be a mobile money platform. Okay, we have the connected cabinet, which is in the beverages industry. Here, we try to use an algorithm to try and calculate how frequently a door is open and give you a projection of what the sales could be on, on a Pepsi or a Coke or, products of that nature. And fleet management is just simple tracking of cargo from Mombasa to Kampala, for example. We have devices that are embedded that show in real time where your products are or where your cargo is. All right? We want to introduce, Rock Telecom has introduced a product, the CCTV camera product called Rock Guardian. The objective here, particularly during this lockdown, is to find a way to make it easier for the regular folk that are stuck at home to keep an eye, one, on their farms, two, on some of their, if they own hotels or if they own academic institutions, keep an eye on what's going on there. It's not as easy to get around because of all the restrictions. However, if we can give you peace of mind and the ability to keep an eye on your property, to keep an eye on your, if you live in a big house and you're upstairs handling a conference call, you could also use the Raw Guardian product to keep an eye on your children, on the bottom floors as they go about their regular business, playing and all that. So what is the value proposition? What is the business case for Rock Guardian? What do we bring to the table that makes us unique? Rock Guardian, as I mentioned, is CCTV, but the uniqueness of our product is that all this is backed up on the cloud. In the olden days, we had something called the DVR, which was sort of a device, equipment in your home. So whenever thugs or robbers would come and clean up your place, they would take the DVR. So there would be no way to follow up, because you won't have any evidence of what happened, or you won't have pictures, video showing the actual thieves that cleaned out your place. So now you don't have to worry about that. Rock Guardian. And the absolute beauty about all this is that Rock Guardian, if you're a Rock customer, is that there is no cost. There is no data cost to have all this information up onto the cloud or when you're trying to retrieve it. So that's the uniqueness. That's the uniqueness of our product, and that's the key selling point, in my opinion. All right? I've mentioned the rest of that, the businesses and the academic institutions. We also want to highlight the fact that there is a time-lapse future. What do I mean by this? You can very quickly peruse through video of what has been recorded and is stored on the cloud. You can, for example, 48 hours can be viewed within 5 minutes. This is extremely vital in the sense that it helps you get to the relevant material fast, as opposed to watching the entire 2 days worth of pictures or video. There is also a motion detection amenity, which in essence creates, the camera only records, the CCTV, this platform, the Rock Guardian platform, only records when something moves. In other words, if there's nothing going on, at night or whenever, there won't be any recording going. But if something moves within the field of view, then you have a recording that transpires. This again saves on space, saves on data, saves on energy, because it only records what's relevant, what moves. All right? And this is sort of an illustration of pretty much what I discussed. The motion detection, the cloud storage, the night vision, you know, like you see in the movies with the special forces and the ability to see at night. Our cameras have the same ability to show you in real time clearly what's happening. Okay? Heat maps. I want to explain what heat maps are, what precisely they do. If you own a supermarket, for example, and you have a product that you've introduced, but you're trying to figure out where customers usually cluster. All right? Well, with the Rock Guardian, these cameras, our cameras, the CCTV cameras, you're able to see areas through heat mapping, areas where the clients cluster. So if you position your new product in those locations, the ability, the propensity to have them move faster off the shelves is a lot more viable. So heat maps, the ability to present, to show clusters in a supermarket, for example, is of value to whoever wants to use it in this kind of setting. All right, remote access. What this simply means is that you can either access your Rock Guardian, the floor, the stream either online, on laptop, or with your mobile device on an app. And then time lapse, I just described, the 48 hours can be condensed to, can be perused within 5 minutes. All right? So what are the statistics that point to Rock Guardian, the CCTV cameras being of use? In 2019, there was a 9.8 reduction in the volume of criminality in Uganda, from 23,000 cases to slightly over 250, to slightly below 215 cases. This shows, and why did this particularly happen? It happened because the government had installed CCTV cameras across the country. So clearly, the Rock Guardian and CCTV cameras in general are extremely helpful in crime prevention, and when you need to investigate, crime haven't happened, you would have evidence of what transpired. So in conclusion, Rock Guardian is exceedingly unique, has exceedingly unique features like the cameras, the switches, the footage backup for a week, the motion triggered recording, zero rating, which I mentioned. Essentially, there's no data cost to either upload or download your images off the cloud. And the time lapse, which I highlighted, and most importantly, your ability to use the web portal or the mobile app to keep an eye on what's happening at your business or your property, and therefore keeping you well rested as you go about your business. Okay, we have a small illustration here asking who can use Rock Guardian. Rock Guardian is aimed at pretty much everyone. I mean, if you're sitting at home, you want to keep an eye on your businesses, so sure. Or if you are a large-scale business owner, a factory owner, a hotel owner, it would help protect your profits, and it would help keep an eye on your business. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the end of the Rock Telecom presentation, and thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Without further ado, I'm now going to invite our next presenter. The name beats me, but I'll try. Blessed is okay. The other one is Chimgaha. Blessed Chimgaha is a group manager, digital solutions, EcoBank, and she is going to present for us on women-led businesses and technology innovation options, the digital way in commercial banking?
So whilst they're working on that, Charles, I'll just start with some interesting stats that I picked from the presenters that came before me. Africa's success really depends on women. One of the presenters earlier yesterday mentioned that 1 in 4 African women own a business, and you can just imagine with the numbers that we have in Africa and the contribution that women are doing to the development of the continent. So that's outstanding. All right, so my role today is just to walk you through some of the digital solutions that we have as EcoBank that are targeted to the SME and the women that are in business. So on this slide, I'm just showing you the summary of the products. We have got the business current account that can be opened online. We also have our OmniLite internet banking product, which is for women and can be used by any SME across the continent to do transactions. We also have got EcoBank Pay, which I'll explain in the slides that come following this one. We also have got smart point of sale terminals. We also have got e-commerce platforms targeted to the businesses that we have in our books. We also have the business prepaid card. And finally, I'll speak on Google My Business as one of the products that we have for the businesses within our books. Right, so our business account can be opened online. It's 100% accessible online. Customers can visit our website and follow the steps to open their account. They will attach all the relevant details that are needed to get the account opened, and the account will be ready within 24 hours. So that's one classic product that we want to sell to our SMEs, to all the women in business, for them to access and open an account within EcoBank. And we are living in unprecedented times where physical contact should be minimized at all costs. So if you are able to open an account online and submit all your KYC detail online and get the account ready within 24 hours, that's one of the classic products that you would want to grab on as an SME in business. Right, so the product that I'm going to talk of now is our OmniLite internet banking product. And this is a product that we've targeted to all the local corporates, SMEs, public sector companies that we have in our books. And we have invested heavily in the security that we have on OmniLite, just to make sure that our clients are safe when they're doing transactions online. And the product is also secure and also brings in the convenience that a customer would want to experience when they transact online. So our internet banking product allows you to do transfers. It also allows you to pay salaries. This can be done online. It also allows you to pay for bills on a month-to-month basis. It's also a very good product that is accessible both on your tablet, on your computer, so that it conforms to your device, to the device that you're using, connecting online. And one other product that I just want to rehash on OmniLite internet banking is it gives you that track record. I know the presenters that came before me spoke of a digital footprint, which is useful whenever you want to then access or to apply for financial assistance from your bank. So transacting online gives you that track record to see where you made payments to your suppliers, where you received credits into your account. And this information is very useful even for business planning, to know when payments are outgoing and when receipts are coming onto your account. So that's one critical product that we would want all the SMEs that are in our books to be utilizing from time to time. And also, again, we are living in the COVID times. So if you're able to do transactions from the comfort of your office or from the comfort of your home, you are safer that way, instead of bringing in manual transaction forms to the branches so that someone can log into the system and process. You'll be doing this in the comfort of your home on our online banking platform. The other key thing with our OmniLite internet banking product is we are able to replicate the same signing mandate that we have for your account, and we put that onto the online platform. So if your account has got 2 people to sign, we're also able to put that same mandate instruction onto OmniLite, so that the security and the safety of your funds is also supported on our product. Right. The next product is EcoBank Pay, and this is a very interesting product for me here. With EcoBank Pay, what we are doing is we are offering a QR code to an SME and allowing them to receive payments from customers from their mobile phones onto that QR code. And this is one of the smartest way again to receive payments, because you are limiting contact. When people are transacting with the other channels or with cash, there is physical movement of cash from one person to the other. Now, when someone is scanning a QR code, there is that safety, especially in these unprecedented times where COVID is within our midst. Customers will be able to scan a QR code and make a payment to your business. So this comes prerequisite with the account. Once we open your account, we'll create a QR code and offer that to you to receive payments. The other good thing about QR codes is you can actually send that online. You can send it on email to your creditors and ask them to scan the QR code from their computer, and you receive that payment instantly in your account. And again, the QR code is also accessible on USSD. So we've got a terminal ID that will give the merchant so that whenever a customer wants to pay using those feature phones, they're able to dial a short code and key in the QR code terminal ID and make a payment directly to you. And these funds will reflect in your account immediately after the payment has been done. So this is one interesting product that we would want to have all the SMEs in our books to be utilizing. Right, I'll go on to our smart POS solution. So we've got a smart point of sale terminal that we'll be offering to all the SMEs that are in our books. And the smart, we call it smart point of sale machine because it carries a number of services that are not available on the traditional POS that we know. Our smart point of sale terminal is able to receive payments from mobile wallets. Someone with a mobile wallet is able to make a payment to the merchant on that smart point of sale terminal. It also allows customers to be able to pay onto a QR code that would have offered to the merchant. So the QR code is also displayed on this smart point of sale terminal. It's also used for other services. Agency banking services are also available on our terminal. It also allows customers to use, remember again, I mentioned earlier on the need to minimize contact type of payments. So with our EcoBank POS terminal, customers are able to do contactless payments on the terminal, and those payments will reflect onto the merchant's account when you process settlements. The terminals also accept EMV cards, which are the more secure payment cards that we have within the market. Right. We also have an exciting service which we call the e-commerce platform. What we do with our e-commerce service is we onboard merchants and businesses onto a free online representation for their business. So imagine that restaurant selling confectionery somewhere in Kampala. We're able to onboard this merchant on a free web page that allows them to receive payments from customers that are paying them online. Again, typical product for these unprecedented times, where someone who's in Kampala is able to go onto that page and buy a croissant. If they need to buy a croissant, for example, for breakfast, they can buy that online, make a payment using mobile money, make a payment using a card, make a payment by scanning a QR code that will also display on the e-commerce representation for the merchant. So the merchant is also able to upload images of the products that they're selling. So imagine a retailer who's selling foodstuffs, for example. They're able to take pictures of their dishes and share those online, so that people going online to buy for those services, they're able to see the images of those products and make it. So the payments is usually just the same as what you do when you go to other online payment page, where you check in, where you take your product, put it in a checkout bucket, and then you check out. On checkout, you supply your card detail, obviously, if you're paying by a card. If you're paying by EcoBank Pay, you'll be able to scan the QR code that will display there. If you're paying by mobile money, you also be paying on that same page, and then the payment goes through. So once the payment has been confirmed, you'll be able to receive your products on that for that purchase. So this is a key strategic product for us as EcoBank, and we're looking forward to onboarding a lot of SME businesses within Uganda onto the e-commerce platform. And we've done this by partnering with our strategic fintechs, which is iPay, Flutterwave, and TPO. And we're working with them on this e-commerce platform to help merchants have that online representation and receive payments from virtually anyone across the globe. So again, COVID times, payments are done online, and there is no physical contact that is there. We need to reduce physical contact where COVID can be transmitted. So we're looking forward to onboarding a lot of the other SMEs that we have on this webinar onto our e-commerce platform. Right. We also have a business prepaid card, typical product for your business payments, be it subscriptions. I know some of the SMEs could be subscribing to DSTV, for example, DSTV in your cafeterias. And when you have the business prepaid card, you are able to pay for those services with that card. And again, you're creating that digital footprint, which shows you all the transactions that you'll be doing from time to time. And this information is very critical, again, when you want to seek financial assistance from the bank, or if you want to just have a track record and make better business plans for your business going forward. So the product will be available for SMEs, and they'll be able to use it to make payments again without using cash. Customers are able to pay with a business prepaid card for whatever service, bills, be it travel expenses. I had Dr. James when we spoke earlier, when he's traveling on business trips, the business prepaid card becomes a handy and typical product for him, so that he can also have a track of his business expenses when he's traveling. And that information is also stored and kept within the digital system, so that after a year or after 3 months, if they want to have a track, or if they want to revise the payments and just see how much they're spending on such type of business travel expenses, they can do that in the comfort of their offices using our business prepaid card platform. Right, Google My Business. With Google My Business, we're just helping your business to stand out, really. What we're doing is when we set you up for Google My Business, we're making sure that your business is easily reached when people search for it online. So when people search for, let's say it's a business that is specializing in timber manufacturing, for example. And when people go online to search for trusses, for example, they will be able to see your business online because we've registered you onto the Google My Business platform. And the good thing about this platform is it allows you to see where the searchers of your business are searching from, or the keywords that they're using when they're searching online. What keywords do they use to search for your business online? And this information is very critical, again, for business strategy, because remember, you want to know the searches that customers within the business that you're operating in are searching for. And that information can be used as you do backward or forward integration as you develop your business. So the other key thing that I just wanted to mention again on Google My Business is when we set you up on Google My Business, we'll make sure that your QR code is also displayed on that platform, so that customers who want to make payments to you are able to pay you by scanning the QR code. I will also urge SMEs to make sure that for the services that they offer, once we create a Google My Business platform for you, just make sure you upload good quality images, so that people that are searching online for the services that they need, and when they see your platform online, they're able to see the nice images of the services that you offer as a business. So that's in summary the digital solutions that we have for SMEs and targeted to the women SMEs within the African continent. And with the volume of business that comes from women, as shown in my first slide, we'll be happy to offer these to the SMEs and help them grow their businesses as we progress. That's my summary for my presentation, Charles. I'll hand over back to you. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Blessed Chimga. Thanks a lot for the presentation. I wanted to ask, how best can local enterprises benefit from, but let me ask this of James, because is James online?
Yes, I am available online.
James, there are some quick questions that have come up, and I needed you to respond to them before we bring in the next presenter. How best can local enterprises benefit from tax reliefs?
How best can local enterprises? Okay. It depends on what tax relief you are talking about. For example, if you're an investor, this will be very clear in the laws what you're entitled to. And then if you are dealing in international trade, I think it might be good for you to work with tax experts so that they tell you which kind of relief you will be entitled to, and they can also work with the local tax authorities to specify to you exactly what you'll be entitled to. And also there are countries, for example, even now, where we have double taxation agreements. So a lot of details will be involved, but you will need to look at a specific case. And once you work with their tax advisor, they can be able to help you to navigate and get the right kind of relief where you're supposed to get.
And then there is another question, a very interesting one. This sounds very Ugandan, that often we tend to like products from outside more than locally made products or domestically prepared products. And this person is asking, what would be the solution to such attitude and behavior?
Okay, thank you. That's a very good one, actually. Like you said, it's very much Ugandan, probably. I agree with you. I think government of Uganda, for example, has been promoting the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda. I think it is upon us all to see how we can change these perceptions. I think these are some of the colonial hangovers that remained with our people. Somebody thinks that if something has a label made in UK, then it is of a higher quality than made in China or made in Uganda or made in Kenya, for example. So it's some kind of mentality which might have happened those days. And that's why some of the downtown businessmen have been cheating people. They go to China, they tell them, make for me this kind of products, it could be suits or whatever, and just put their label made in Germany or somewhere, made in UK. And he brings it, but it is been made in China, and it is even a low quality, and somebody here thinks it is, So that is something that we need to sensitize our people to know that Uganda can have good products, African countries can have good products. There's no need for us to always say, you must buy something which is coming from Europe. So I think Buy Uganda, Build Uganda has been doing a lot about this, trying to sensitize people. Because there are a lot of things. You've seen the president, for example, sometimes in his nice shirts, he says this shirt is made in Uganda, and you can really see the Mzee is very smart. You've seen the army, for example, almost all the clothes that are being used for dressing the soldiers, they are really made here, and they are good. And it's the same thing with other people. It is just something that we need to deal with. It's a psychological kind of feeling. It has no basis. In most cases, I've seen a lot of products made here which are very good. Thank you.
But don't you think that it also takes two to tango? It's okay to sensitize the customer to ensure that they drop a certain attitude. But how about the questions of standards, the question of There are some people who know that they have been beaten once, and so they get shy more than once, and that could also be a problem. So how about a message to the producers as well to assure of quality?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's a very good angle you bring also. So I think as we sensitize our people, we also need to tell our producers that we need to produce good products, and it's good for us. You remember recently we had problems in Kenya when they said we don't want that maize here. You know, it had aflatoxins and those kind of things. It's because we were not adhering to certain standards as Ugandans. So I think it's important for the producers, and government can support in this as well. We have the Uganda National Bureau of Standards. I've seen there has been a lot of effort, by the way. I produce a few things. For example, I'm a beekeeper as well. And the honey we produce now, you've got to make sure you have the stamp for Uganda National Bureau of Standards. So a number of things are now being enforced. Of course, there's a lot to be done, but I encourage them to continue with their work and to make sure the products produced in Uganda are of high quality, so that they are good for consumption in Uganda, because we also don't need aflatoxins. Like for me, for example, when the Kenyans refused the maize, I was happy a bit, because I was saying, if this is what we have been eating, then we have been exposed to cancer. Now, if you're exporting, the other person will certainly subject it to tests, and the truth comes out. And I think a lot is being done now to make sure the post-harvest methods of handling the maize is good, so that whatever we export meets the kind of standards expected by the importer on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. I need to move to the next. Our second last presenter is going to be Angela Bagaine. Angela is a management consultant, and she is going to present to us on women-focused SMEs and finance options, the experience of Bestmat Consultancy Limited. Now, tell us, as you come for your discussion, I would want to know the focus on women and what it means. People have talked about, like James before, and Tiki have talked about women being given their numbers, and the youth, they are really, to make a turnaround, you need to embrace them. What's your thought about the perspective of women?
Thank you. Women are critical in society because we need to have a balance when it comes to business. We've been having dialogue for years regarding how to increase women footprint within society, and yet we know that they do cover quite a big chunk of both formal and informal sector. So I think there can be no discussion held without inputting women into the equation. And to do so, you require to ensure that all the ingredients are in place. We have seen a small turnaround in Uganda and in Africa in particular, where we're seeing inroads, but the inroads are not that big. It's baby steps, and we still have a lot to do to build the confidence of the women, to encourage them to take risks, to encourage them to go into business that is in risky areas, or what we perceive is risky areas, big business, where we'll have big return. So we must engage women in all sectors, and we shouldn't really get them to what we call the soft skill businesses, and we must be able to support them all the way. But we must also be able to calculate what they bring to the economy and what they bring to society in terms of value, because a lot of what women do is not put into tangible results that can actually be calculated. And then you can, to give us a baseline. So I think it's critical that women are pulled to the forefront, and we are here to activate this, but we also need more activists to ensure that we balance the playing field. So I'm a management consultant, and my specialty is strategic management, business development services, and really restructuring organizations. And I've been at this for over 2 decades. And prior to that, I started off in the banking industry for over 13 years. Playing field, I mean, the foundation really to talk to members who are listening across the continent about the challenges women face and how we can go through the process of finding financing and mitigating some of the challenges. I have 2 companies, but one, my pet peeve really is on service quality on the continent. So I've taken an active role in changing the levels of service across the different countries. And I've been able to then get involved in the operational aspects of many, many companies. So when I started business, I left the banking industry when I was at the height of my career. I was heading consumer banking in one of the bigger banks. And at that time, I realized that we still have to end up in enterprise or start businesses of one sort or another, whether we are young within the working field or whether we are close to retirement. But I did have a particular product that I could actually put out there. And yet I knew that the long hours within corporate Uganda were not working for me on the family front. So I took the leap, and I took the leap knowing that my support structures may not necessarily be as strong or firm as I required. However, I still did it. And the first thing was to figure out what to do. And this is one of the challenges we face when we go into businesses. We look around and either copy what somebody else has or go into something that we've seen churning out a lot of money for others. And sometimes the motivation will kill our businesses halfway through, 2 years later, 3 years later. Now, my challenge was that I was more service oriented. So I was prone to using my mind. And I knew that was what I was good at. That was my asset, the ability to get information and then utilize it for businesses to grow. But at that point, consulting was a myth in Africa. Companies were not willing to hire consultants, and if they did, they didn't fully embrace the recommendations made by consultants. So I started my research on what I wanted to offer, and I had to offer what I felt I was good at. So I had to go back using the Hansel and Gretel theory, following the breadcrumbs to know what particularly can I give that can give them value. So the first thing I had to do was believe in myself. But at that point, I realized that belief in myself does not necessarily mean people believe in you. You can have a very good product and nobody believes in you, and therefore you won't have the clientele to follow through. And therefore, in trying to understand why others were not so keen on believing in what I was offering, I had to go and find out. I had to get up and request for meetings during management meetings of different corporates. I had to place myself up there, up front and center. I was fortunate I had very good employers before who were keen on ensuring that my value was shared. And therefore, it showed me that we all need to have good networks, good linkages with whoever we work for, because these become your first linkage to the next clients. And then I had to understand the business. But management consulting in Africa by then, 20 years ago, was hardly known. And even among ourselves as consultants, we did not want to share information. So there was no baseline from which to gauge, am I doing the right thing? Am I giving the right information? So I linked myself to many organizations abroad. Online, I joined many masterclass programs and started building my name from that angle. But I had to do the search, and the right search had to be done online, getting to know people who can actually play with you and, creating a tribe. This tribe came from people who are conscious about change, who are conscious about service excellence, people who believed in the same thing I believed in. While I was gaining that footwork, footprint, I had to start networking. And I was fortunate to join Uganda Women Entrepreneurs, where I served on in different positions, but I've been chairing them for the last 3 years, and I was on the board for the last 6. During that time, I also started getting so involved in joining boards to manage different aspects of women entrepreneurship. So when I joined the Uganda Women Entrepreneurs, I went in as a consultant, worked on their strategic plan, and most of the time it was offering services at a very low price, simply to get in and to also understand the market. Because you can't always set your price high at the very beginning. But that opened up so many doors. After working on their strategy 2014, 2019, I successfully managed to do strategy formulation for over 12 companies within a space of 2 years. And that now made my name start growing. And it wasn't an easy journey, because when you make an offer of a low-priced service, you still must maintain and give quality. So it was critical that I understood the business, I understood the content. I knew my goal was to increase my footprint initially, because I had knocked at doors and many doors were not opening. And then I started noticing that we undervalue our services, we undervalue our products, because once you step in low priced, many people expect you to stay low priced. So you have to manage the expectations of your clients. You must be able to tell them, I may have done it at a lower cost in the first 1 year, but this is the accurate pricing for my services. And over time, it takes time, it's a journey, it doesn't happen overnight, but I stopped undervaluing my products because I now knew what the market dictates. Now, in the service industry, it's not very easy to set pricing. It's not like buying a bottle of mineral water and knowing the price is 2,500 Uganda shillings. In the service industry, you have to know which components are more time consuming. As a consultant, our hours of work span from 3 hours to 24 hours. Sometimes we work overnight when we have a deadline. And then there are months when you have no work at all. And I was curious as to how the tax body and other, for example, banks you would send bids to would take this. They did not understand the concept of working partially, having work for a few months and then having some other months, not idle, but attending to so many other things. And that's where my voluntary work came in. So you found people questioning why you were not earning in certain months. So you had to learn to manage, understand your product, but then also manage the peak periods and manage what we call the valleys. Now, during those times, I had to now get different services. So I have 2 companies. One was very active in beginning of the year, middle of the year, and towards November. And then in the other months, I started offering services to companies that had a plan, but hadn't budgeted for it. So I would perform services, do training, but then ask them to defer the payment for 6 months when their budgets are approved. And therefore, I kept busy. But when you do that kind of thing, you know that you still have to give quality and you still have to have the wait period without having the anger that comes from delayed payment. So that kind of built my client base and also gave confidence in my suppliers and my clients as well, that if I could make the offer upfront and provide the service, they were willing to stay with me year on. And every year I started getting retainer clients. And I also figured out that when we are spending, which at the beginning, when we are startups, we are minimalist. So we buy poor quality paper, we buy poor quality cameras. For example, if you're doing training, you want to get the cheapest consultant who may not be as good as you want. One of the key things you must avoid is really being minimalist when you're investing in those things that become your brand. The cost may be high on some of those aspects, but the aspects become you. Your brand identity then shows out there. I also had challenges with mindset. and I've noticed it happens with many businesses. There was an issue of looking over your shoulder. What is my fellow consultant doing? What is he providing that is different? What does he have that is similar to what I'm offering? Is he copying me? If I give my notes out, will they be used? So there was a lot of looking over the shoulder, over your shoulder, and it tends to drag you backwards because you then enter a loop of blaming. That blame game brings your quality down, and it also depresses you. So you find that if they have done something, you don't want to go in the same field, and yet you're trying to become a specialist in that particular field. So don't look over your shoulder. If you're confident about your product or your service, compete. The market is big enough. The other thing I noticed was that we tend to get very upset when we get competition. I used competition to up my game. I went into team building and what we call extreme sport for people who wanted simulation training. I had to then learn how to do simulation training. I had to go online. I had to get onto Patreon. I had to get onto Vimeo. I had to get onto all these sites that would make me stronger than my opponent. So most of my work now is online. It has been way before. I had started way before COVID last year. So I sailed through the first COVID phase because I had online trainings already laid up, and I was able to still put food on the table. Now, pricing is hard. Getting it right is also not easy in the service industry. So I used to ask clients, how much would you pay for this? And if someone gave me a rate, I then multiplied it by 3. Usually we give a third of work, because for some reason, when I came through with the ×3 of what their offer was, I was then able to get a gauge, and from that gauge, I was then able to get your reputation is known, and people will be willing to pay what you other people have paid. Now, what I also realized, when you give discounts, the discounts should be for specified periods of time. Otherwise, some clients will insist on having the same discounts each time they come to you. So be open with your client about your pricing. I must say, at the very beginning, when it was hard, finding funding to begin wasn't that easy. And I went into barter trade at some point, where I did some strategic plans for the service, and it was a quid pro quo, and I was able to get products, and I would be able to give them a service as well. So barter trade may seem archaic, but it seems to have worked for me as well at a time when I didn't have the financial muscle to actually pay up front or for what I wanted from them. I had to be resilient. I have 4 children, and I have a very busy life with so many voluntary activities. We have a family resort to run, which was also coming in with different experiences. And from all these, I had to be very challenging when you work alone and when you work from home. I had an office. We were paying rent at some point, but when you're a consultant, you're constantly on the move. So I had to look at some of these costs and ask, why am I having an office that's empty 3/4 of the time, and yet I'm spending on it? So you have to look at everything on your own and not based on what other people are doing. Then hiring, we had to go into hiring for attitude, because we realized with all the qualifications a person has, if a person doesn't have the right attitude, then they will get your business to collapse. So look for the attitude. It should be a bigger chunk of the hiring process, because a person with the right attitude can learn. A person with the right qualification and wrong attitude brings your business down. And we did have some firefighting episodes where we constantly had to not get some people out because they were ruining the brand. And of course, there was constant learning. I think I was reading about 20 books a month just to up my content game and also to be knowledgeable of what I was offering. So when we look at the financing options that I looked at as I started both my businesses was, one, I had to have a budget based on a strategy and a plan. At the beginning, I was lackluster about it. I didn't take it too seriously, and I made mistakes because of that. So when I finally sat down I was training people how to make plans and budgets, but when it comes to you doing it on your own, there are things you leave out. And yet these come in as ad hoc costs later on. I then looked at what financing I required. And you have to calculate the total amount, whether it's short-term, medium-term, or long-term, because this will then guide you on where to look for funding. Are you going to look for funding from micro support financing options? Will you need a SACCO to help? Will you need a bank loan? Do you need to look for a grant? All these come from the finance plan that you will have, knowing that in the long term, I probably need this much space for my staff. I need this equipment, etc. So have that plan ready. And then I planned for contingency cost planning, where, for example, if I don't get a client to pay on time, how do I meet the financing of my plan? And those contingency costs, I made sure that I had specific things that had to be paid. Salaries, for example, where am I getting this financing from? So the options were many. At startup, it was mainly personal finances, but the personal finances can never be that much. When you have children in school, you have bills to pay, you have family members who have requirements. So I knew that the margin of personal finances is ABC. Of course, I was doing extra things. For example, I was painting for leisure. There were things I was doing which were making money, but it wasn't something I was really keen on. Those were hobbies that had turned into business ideas. I had a teenage program, entrepreneurship program, every holiday, which also brought financing in. And then I got parents who wanted their children counseled, especially errant children who were addicted to some substances or were having challenges. So parents were also willing, and these were part-time on the side things, which kind of helped to bring in some financing, because they started growing from a hobby into an actual business, but a side business. Then I had friends and family, but we must be aware that friends and family usually will be the last to lend you, and they will become hawks, and they'll disturb you if you don't pay on time. They'll tell the whole world how you've lent them money. So when you come to a family member for money, then you must have a non-disclosure agreement. And I'm laughing because when you tell them, they will find it funny. But you must also have terms of payment with them. Respect their money and the way in which you're going to pay it. Many people don't feel they have to pay back family members' money borrowed or friends' money borrowed. So make it a transaction. Now, the others are peer-to-peer lending, join associations. They'll give you options. They'll also give you references. At the same time, you must be able to have peer-to-peer lending options. My one caution is, don't go to the loan sharks if you want your business to survive. The interest rates are abominable, and you will find you spend more money paying the loan shark and moving money away from what you should have been paying. And when you have money that you're borrowing, please ensure you pay within the specified period. You must have that level of integrity. Now, all the others, the overdrafts help you on day-to-day borrowing, but you must already be with the bank, and you must have your records, you must have your books of accounts in order. So that takes time. I usually think that's more medium term. Startups will not necessarily go for overdrafts or be awarded overdrafts immediately, but you can prove to the bank if you have any of those. If you have a property, if you have a car you can hire, if you want a loan for vehicle leasing, that kind of thing. So that is more medium term, where the others, the softer ones, is more immediate. So start in the long term is where you can seek, if you have a social enterprise, seek grants or other schemes. These are usually informed, associations are normally informed of these, and take opportunity, because there's some financing that will come in the form of capacity building, which will train for you staff, which will be able to help you with equipment if they're giving equipment. And of course, finally, don't fear angel investors. The thing is, we hold on to our businesses like an egg, and we fear to bring venture capitalists or angel investors in to help us. But you must do your research so that you're getting financing based on what business you're in. Now, when it comes to your mindset really is critical in this entire entrepreneurship journey. The business is not about you. The idea may have been yours in the first place, but once you incorporate your business and hire people, it's no longer about you. It's about the business. So have your structures and processes in place. The second thing is know the law of fair exchange. When you get something for free, I'm remembering yesterday's session where someone was talking about free data. And I was saying, when you get free data, free training, we don't take it seriously. We don't incorporate what we receive if we have not given something in exchange. So one of the universal laws is the law of fair exchange. Pay for what you require to input, and also pay for services that you will get to build your business. Be consistent. When you borrow, be consistent on payment. When you are producing any particular product or service, be consistent on quality. Be consistent on integrity. Embrace the tough times. The tough times are here. We're all facing them in one way or another. Our staff are embracing them. So you must be able to know this is just a valley. Don't give up and run off and start again. Starting a different business tomorrow because you let this one collapse still means you will go through the same challenges over again. So what you do is have stopgap measures, close the shop if you have to for the lockdown period, account your losses, and then say, this is the time I'm going to kickstart, but I'll kickstart when I have improved my business to this level. Integrity, honesty are critical. They are crucial when you're dealing in private business because people buy your integrity, not your product. They buy you, they buy your vision. There are many people they can get the same thing from, but why would they want to come to you again and again? As you're building your network, learn from your mistakes. Learn from your mistakes. Don't take your mistakes as a failing point. Pick up from them and say, okay, I got this wrong. I won't repeat it, and then start again. And then train your team. We have trained our teams. Sometimes we don't even train them at all because we think it is a cost. And yet, if you don't train the team, how will they take your vision out there? Then we have to adapt quickly. Now, we in the training consulting world are seeing less work, especially as businesses have closed and priorities for funding are being placed elsewhere. So we have to quickly come up with solutions that come up for businesses. Right now, it's ripe to tell people how to restructure. So I go that direction. When we come out of this, people will be in frame of mind to go back into employee engagement. I will then go back to that. I will be able to apportion time. So the ability to adapt quickly and stay positive is important. Of course, when it comes to finance distribution, I know Ochichi yesterday said there's a 50-30-20 rule. I changed mine based on the service industry and specifically for consulting to a 30% operational costs, 30% labor fees, salaries and taxes, and 40% profit margin. And I'm
Angela,
then able to calculate.
Angela, you should
I'm winding up.
Wind up in 1 minute. You have passed your time by 5 minutes.
I will do so. All right. So the final thing I'll probably talk about is your employees. Employees are your champions. 30% are your champions, 40% are on the fence. So work on your champions and the 40% who are neither here or there, nor there. Those who can be strengthened and those ones who may not necessarily be strengthened. And with the technology, they've already talked about it, but I'll talk about one thing. Get your platforms and cascade without irritating information out there and learn to adhere to netiquette. If you're used to getting angry on the internet, you're going to lose clients. Personalize your messages, but adhere to good language, good communication, and you'll then be able to sell a brand. So finally, Eliminate fear, take risks, calculated ones, understand gender equality so that you can embrace it, understand people, and go into those male-dominated areas, go into construction, go into all those areas that you feel only men have made a mark. Lean in, support each other. Women usually don't support fellow women, so we are making it really one of our core objectives to ensure that women support women businesses. And I thank EcoBank really for pushing the women-led business agenda. And everything you do matters. So quality, quality, quality. I want to thank you for listening to my journey.
Brilliant journey, brilliant presentation, and testimonies, approved testimonies. Brilliant. Angela, you're good, and we take note of that. Thanks so much for sharing with the entire team, and I wish we had more time to listen in. Unfortunately, time is always a scarce resource, and we have got to move to the next presenter. Our last presentation, and it's a keynote presentation, and it will come from no one else but Patrick Betature, Chairman, Simba Group of Companies. His topic that he has been given is Women and Youth-Focused SMEs, Finance and Technology Options. Is Patrick online?
Thank you, Charles. I would like to begin by salutations to everybody, those who are online and those who are at the Sheraton. And also I'd like to thank in a very special way Human Capital for organizing this annual event. This is not the first time, and I've been invited before. And I think it's useful and it's growing. It's growing in momentum, it's growing in impact. The number of people now talking about it. So we really support this initiative. And I want to thank in a special way Emmanuel Daitumi for this very passionate initiative of his. He's really committed. So I thank you. And I'd like to start there. I don't know if my presentation can come up on screen. Am I a co-host? If I can put up my presentation, it will guide us through the discussion.
It has come on.
Good. Now, fortunately, most of the presenters who have spoken before me have done a commendable job, and I've listened to several of them yesterday and today, and they've talked about the role of women and youth. They have highlighted the importance. They've even talked about financing. So my work is really cut out because they've talked about technology. So there's very little I can add to that. And so I'm going to go off the normal conventional repetition of what has been said and try to get people to see things a little bit different, how I see them, having spent 2 days listening to about the role of women and youth and the importance or significance that they can play. So I begin by asking, why are we where we are? Especially as a country, Uganda, number 160 something in the rankings out of 190 something countries as the poorest countries. We are very low in that country, in that ranking. And as a continent, Africa, why are we lagging so far behind? The main thing is, what makes those who succeed? What helped them to change? The world was more or less the same 150 years or so ago. America was not as powerful as it is today, nor was Asia, Europe, but they've all moved in large strides, in leaps and bounds. But Africa has almost, I won't say stagnated, we have made progress, but we are so far behind. And the same thing applies to individuals. Whether you are an SME or as an individual person, you need to persevere. There's going to be no shortcut. And all those who have gone before us have persevered, at times at the expense of others, at times at our expense, but they have persevered. So let's look at the demographics. Today, Africa makes up 16% of the world's total population. And by the year 2050, they will comprise 25%. Some people say that in 2050, the population should be about 10 billion, going by the current trajectories. Others put a maximum of 16 billion. Now, if we're at 25% of the 16 billion in Africa, that means 4 billion people by the year 2100. So that is a scary number. And these are projections made by scientists. So anyway, 80% of the population growth is said will accrue in the urban areas. So there's going to be rapid urbanization. How are we going to check this urbanization? It could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. By 2050, the 10 biggest cities in the world will be in Africa. Today, we're looking at Cairo, we're looking at Lagos, we're looking at Kinshasa. These are cities that are already struggling at the beams because the social infrastructure cannot support the number of people there. So I would rather that we think about things from that point of view, the demographics. Now, when I talk about a demographic tailwind, that means you've got something that is supporting you, artificially or naturally there to support you. Imagine it's a plane. When you have a tailwind, it helps you arrive quicker with less fuel burnt, and it helps you achieve your objective. You can have what they call a headwind when you're working against it. Now, having a big population should be a tailwind. Our demographic shows that we're going to be the labor, the manpower, the human capital for the world in the coming years. But unless it's skilled, unless they know what they're doing, unless we are progressive, all the gains that we make, all the increase in incomes at a macro level are wiped away because of the demographic growth. We are growing way too fast, and that is a liability. I take you to what I call the first industrial revolution. The first industrial revolution was about 170 years ago. And that was when mankind shifted from emphasizing muscle power to steam power. But in Africa, we're still using hose as the primary tool to fend for our families and for survival. The hoe is the most primitive tool for agriculture. And so long as we keep using it and depend on it, we are not going to have change. So to change the social infrastructure, to change the landscape, we've got to move away from muscle manpower. We use muscle manpower. That's all we do. We've got to move to the internal combustion engine, tractors, vehicles. We've got to move to technologies. And we'll talk about the second industrial revolution and the third briefly. But the main thing is all the gains we make on the top line are wiped away by the population. Now, in Africa, an approximation has been made of the number of babies born every year, and there are about 32 million new babies. In Uganda alone, we are nearer to the number of 2 million every year. Now, these people are going to be joining the workforce at about 16 or 18 or 20, depends on where their level of education stops. Where do we put these people? We are certainly not creating jobs fast enough. And so everyone's putting emphasis on SMEs, but SMEs are not a walk in the park. Doing business is extremely hard. There are many vagaries. Uganda is touted as one of the countries that's most entrepreneurial. So many businesses start, but how many survive the first year? Very few make it to the second year, even fewer to the fifth year. So the attrition rate is extremely high because business is hard and nobody's emphasizing it. We're telling all these young, unsuspecting students as they graduate at graduation day, go out and start a business, create jobs for yourselves and for your colleagues. Easier said than done. I've been in business long enough to know it's extremely hard. But at the same time, I'm a champion of entrepreneurship. I encourage young people to get into business, however hard it is. So what is it that's lacking? What have we got to change? First, of course, we've got to change our attitudes, but a change in attitude is easier said than done. A change in thinking, and that means at an early age, start changing the thinking while you're still in school, and then set it. It must be quite firm, and that will lead to a change in behavior. If you think at the day you graduate, you can change your attitude and change your thinking, it's going to be an uphill task. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's an uphill task. But if you could change earlier and start focusing, I was fortunate. By the time I was 16, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And if it wasn't going to be politics, it was going to be business. And I wanted to scale in business. And I had focus. So I changed my thinking. By the time I finished my studies, my behavior had changed. I knew exactly what I was going to do. Now, the danger with our societies, especially in Africa, we expect socioeconomic transformation to work because we have snapped our fingers. it will be zero unless we include women and youth. Now, the current government today, NRM, is talking about socio-economic transformation. Unless they put women and youth at the forefront, and this is what they should have been doing a few years ago, if it was going to happen now, we will not achieve our goals easily. It's going to be an uphill task. So what is it that takes for people to succeed? What are the habits you need to inculcate while you're still young? Number one, I say, is goal setting. If you don't set objective goals, they must be realistic objective goals, and then you focus on those goals. I mentioned that I set my goals when I was 16. I'd had a rude awakening at 13 when my father died, and it took me a couple of years to understand who I am. But at 16, I knew exactly what I wanted to do and where I was going. And that got me going. So you set your goals. It's actually better to write them down, share them with your family, share them with the loved ones, keep it and check it every year. Check, what did I write down? Am I still on track? Because it's so easy to lose focus. Number two is determination. That perseverance I talked about earlier, the tenacity, the strength to go that distance, to work extremely hard. The picture I show you is a guy getting up early in the morning, taking his matoke to market. He could have taken one bunch or two and come back for more, but he puts on as much as he can take and takes it to the brink. That is determination. The journey is about tenacity. Just from wherever he has harvested or picked the matoke or bananas to take them to the market. That takes that strength of character. And that's what you've got to start with quite early, because it takes time for it to be embedded. You need to work hard, and the culture of getting up every day should be a habit. It should be a routine, a normal thing. You can't be sleeping and say, okay, today's a weekend, I'm going to sleep until midday, and Sunday I sleep until 1 o'clock and have a brunch. Those are habits for people who are lazy. Okay, a few people succeed and they have those characteristics, but nearly all the people who succeed in life have got a culture of getting up early. Start when the sun is rising. In Africa, we are gifted. The sun rises every single day. We don't have places like UK or Europe where the sun can come in late in the afternoon and then by 4 o'clock, it's gone. So we've got to get up early, form those habits early. And you've got to manage your time effectively, because time is the currency you have, especially when you are a youth. It's the most valuable currency. As you grow older, it becomes more and more precious. Now, if you've got a job, a day job, and it starts at 8 o'clock, if you manage your time well, like the lady there, she gets up at 6:30, tenders her garden, make sure she has watered it before she goes to her conventional job. Nearly everybody in this world, especially after COVID, has learned that you need to have a side hustle. If you don't have a side hustle, a source of income other than that job, what happens on rainy days when you go into a lockdown? And it can take so long. What if this lockdown is extended until January 2022? What would we do? You need to find something that brings in a bit of income. Survival is all that matters. And if you didn't learn a lesson in the first shutdown, make sure you don't miss the lesson in this second one, because there might be a third shutdown coming. Number three, you need to embrace technology. Most people think of technology as a sophisticated way. I'm talking about the most basic things. If you have a mobile phone, yes, it's good to start with an entry-level basic phone, but try and get a smartphone. It will be so much more user-friendly. And also, once you learn to use it properly, it will be a tool for survival. The internet, the power of the internet can harness so many things and give you information, help you make informed decisions because of the mobile phone. The move from the hoes, the traditional hoe, to the tractors. We need to embrace tractors. They are far too few. Even in places like northern Uganda, which have got beautiful, vast, flat land, there are hardly any tractors. And that land is virgin, so beautiful, untapped. We need to embrace a culture of greenhouses, especially in the urban areas. Small patches of land, 1/2 acre, 1 acre, can be so profitable if you have a greenhouse, especially if you do some irrigation and use a bit of fertilizer. There's a lot of money in vegetables, in fruits, in farming within 1 acre, fish ponds, prawns, different types of seafood that you can actually culture in the aquaculture area within our space. And lastly, I talk about things like a washing machine. And somebody might wonder, why a washing machine? Aren't you talking about snobs? You'll see more about this a bit later. I want to end with the washing machine because most of our women and youth spend so much time washing their clothes manually. I know women who first do the washing at home manually, and then they go to work to get their job done. They wash for their husband, they wash for their children. Sometimes they have a maid, but still they oversee the washing or the ironing. And these are just mundane, time-consuming jobs. We've got to avoid them. So when I talk about the development of human capital being key, what do I mean? I mean, not everybody is born with the gifts or the privileges that we see around us, but everybody has to make a choice. That is the burden left upon us, whether it is biblically, where the Lord has left us the burden of choice, or in the real world. Even if you're an atheist, you have to make choices. And the choices you make affect your chances in life. And the chances you take affect the changes you will have. So these 3 C's are very important. If you're going to have a change in your life, and you talk about socioeconomic transformation, you need to embrace the right choices and take the chances. Because if you don't take a chance, you don't take a risk, you remain where you are. Things just will not change. And don't let your past dictate your future. Just because you're not come from a privileged family doesn't mean you will not become privileged. In my story, I lost nearly everything, yet I was raised in a privileged family. And we lost everything and came back to zero. But I've had to work my way inch by inch, one brick at a time, one day at a time, to where I am today. And that is because I did not allow what happened to me in the past to dictate my future. You are the architect of your future. It's in your hands. You've got to be responsible for your own destiny. It's all up to you. Then I talk about Kaizen. Kaizen is a Japanese term that is used for consistent, continuous, incremental improvement. Never settle for what is good as being good enough. You think you've arrived, continuously make small steps, incremental steps to see how can you provide your service better? How can you provide a product better? It's got to be continuous improvement. If not in quality, in quantity, then in price. These are things you've got to do. When you're building a business, think about how do you develop what I call DSS, a business that is disruptive, a business that is built with systems. Once it's disrupted, what is the standard? It's got to have systems behind it. Once you get the systems working, then you scale it. That's when you become really successful, building businesses that can scale. Now remember, when you're developing your human capital, and that's a big problem we have, especially in Uganda, delegation of authority does not necessarily mean delegation of responsibility. It's good if you're to grow. You cannot do everything as a one-man show. So you need to empower the people around you. Build a useful team, a team that will win. The team that won Germany yesterday was an English team because they played like a team. And that's what made them win. Not that Germany was not playing like a team, but when you're not a team, you are not recognized. So many of us all over the world were watching the matches live because it was a powerful team playing against another powerful team. Teamwork is important, which means you must delegate authority. But remember, the buck stops with you. You cannot delegate responsibility. Lastly, because I'm trying to keep it very tight, frugality. Frugality or stoicism. You've got to watch your cash burn and your expenditure. Being rich is not about how much money you make, as much as it is how much money you save from what you have made. If you spend all that you have made, there is no point. You will never really accumulate money. The principle of accumulation is making much more than you spend. That cash burn is so important. Unfortunately, when you get a promotion, your spending patterns change. You move into a bigger house, you buy a better car, you go to a better restaurant, your lifestyle changes. And so all of us are gullible to that. And it's an entitlement. You worked hard, you deserve it. But being frugal is very important. And you will notice the people in Asia and a few lately in Europe drive small cars. They are very conscious of costs. They are very conscious of fuel. They are very conscious of all the expenditure that they can avoid, and they work within their budgets. Whereas if you look at our brothers in the extreme West who drive big cars, don't care about fuel, they have credit cards, everything is on credit, they spend so much more. Now, where are we in Uganda? Most of the people who make a lot of money spend it as quickly as they have made it. And they just can't resist. And we've seen them, the guys who rise from nowhere with a lot of money and they start dishing it out. You see them dressed in white clothes and they're having white parties and they make people line up and they're just doling out cash for free. And you see where they are, how long they will last. You wonder where this money even comes from. You've got to make money and it's hard, but you've got to keep money and it's a lot harder to keep money. So you must realize that what you want and what you need are two different things. And you've got to make sure that you do not mistake the two. Focus on what you want, otherwise you lose the things that you need. So to succeed in business or as an SME, you need to have grit. And I break grit down to having guts, being resilient, showing initiatives, and having the tenacity. The tenacity is very important too. And tenacity is slightly different from resilience. An initiative is something you're always sharpening. It's like sharpening your pencil, sharpening your sword if you're going to war, making sure your gun is well oiled because it's a war out there. And to go to a war, you need guts. You've got to be brave. You've got to be able to take a chance. That's what business is all about. So when I talk about resilience, what do I really mean? I mean going the distance. Too many people start up and they mean to go the distance, but they just don't. I've often used the example. If you say I'm going to jog from here to Entebbe Airport, it's about 26 miles on the main road, maybe 40 on the express highway. You can do it actually in one day. But how many people can actually do it? They set off from, let's say, Sheraton and start running. By the time they're at Clock Tower, they are distracted. I can't do it, or they are turning off. They reach the Makindi roundabout, Nakula somewhere, they are distracted, or Kajansi, but they do not go the distance, even though they are assured there's a prize at the end of the day in Entebbe for them. And it is physically doable, especially by the youth. So going the distance is so important. I see so many people who build houses, they never finish them. They start a business, they never get all the parts together. They do things and they never complete them. You are building a hotel, it reaches halfway, it gets stuck, and it takes 15 or 20 years to finish it. Even very big, tall hotels, like the Aya Hotel, it took almost 20 years for it to be built. It was supposed to be built at the time of Choga. Yes, there are justifiable reasons why things are not done. I struggled to finish Sky's Hotel. It was supposed to be built in 2 years. It took almost 3.5 years. These things happen, but you must go the distance. You must have a plan and you must be determined to make it to the end. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about focus, because that's one thing I see. Too many SMEs start in one direction, they look around, somebody else is doing better than them, and they are distracted. When you write down your objectives, when you make a blueprint, when you set your goals, put them down and stick to them. In fact, I like the saved people who we call the Barokore, because when you announce that I'm now saved, that means I'll not cheat on my wife, I'll not be in the bars every day, I'll not be doing certain things. You change completely. And these people are witnessing you so that they can police you indirectly to help you to stay on the straight and narrow. So I urge people to focus on their goals. Tell your goals to your family and make sure that they see you live those goals. That's how you stay focused. Otherwise, it is so easy to get distracted. You set out to grow bananas, matoke, it's a good business, but you see your neighbor harvesting coffee one day and say, oh, I'm supposed to be in coffee. You can't do all of them. You've got to focus on what you're doing. If you've got the capacity to do other things, by all means, because diversification can also be good, but do it with a plan. Don't just do things on impulse or simultaneously. People have talked a lot about finance, and that's the biggest problem for both women and for the youth. Let me assure you, also for the men, it has always been a problem. We have always been beholden to looking for money. Now, wherever you get this finance, it will never be enough. Whether you live in Japan, in the USA, in the UK, or in Uganda, or in Burundi, you will never have enough money. Everybody's looking for a bit more money. Now, in the past, we were exploited, and the slave trade lasted almost 400 years. And because we were exploited so badly during that period, the Western culture, the Western world benefited so much from our human capital. And it's not coincidence that today the topic is human capital. The forum that's organized us, who brought us together, is about human capital, because it's a very important resource for success. You need land, you need labor, you need capital, you need entrepreneurship, you need innovation. You need these things to be working together. Now, if you don't have the labor, especially if you can have it free, and they took us for a ride for so long. Today, it is finance that we're looking at, but finance also holds labor down. So you can be trapped if you do not raise your money in a smart way. My advice to you, because my time is very short, is stick to the banks. Don't go to the money lenders. Don't go to the sharks. Be careful about these venture capital funds that come in like angel investors, but then before you realize it, they've taken your company. Be careful of the small print. Get an expert to guide you. Get a mentor to help you so that you do not fall in the debt trap, because it's a very hard trap to get out of. It's a method that is tried and tested. It can work, especially if you're investing in long-term ventures like property. I've got a lot of exposure to property, to hotels. And so I work with debt. And with my level of financial literacy, I thought I could manage, but there are still challenges every single day. So I warn people, stick to banks. EcoBank, the main sponsor of this initiative this week, this year and in the past, are a solid bank. Not just in one country, they are a Pan-African bank. They've done incredible work. I've done some business with them and I have a lot of respect for them. They do things in a manner that is sustainable, is developmental. They really focus on the African continent and they want to see us change. So keep talking to your banks. They may give you conditions. They may look hard. Work with them. Begin step by step. You will get there. Women and the youth. We need policies by government to help us get them more involved. And the government has made huge strides in this area. The problem is our culture has not moved at the pace at which government is moving. Somebody talked about 75% of the members of parliament being men. In Uganda, we have changed that drastically. Then the percentage of men in cabinet, we have changed that drastically. I think 43% today are women in cabinet. So we are changing things and government is changing, but is our culture changing fast enough? The culture has got to change, where we respect women as our equal partners. That gender equality is not actually being implemented. And it comes from our background, from our family unit, from our clan unit, from culture, where we see the girl child as a lesser human being than the man. We've got to change that. And it's really deep in our culture. And we can't leave it the religious leaders and the classrooms. It's got to be by our clan leaders. It's got to be the heads of each family. Every family should see that the girl child is as equal in importance as the boy child. When I see people's wills, they're always bequeathing everything to the boys. The girls will get married and go and join another family. A girl child is equally important. We need to empower these girls and make sure that they count in our society. As I come towards the end of my presentation, I must emphasize a culture of savings. The societies that have changed, especially in the last 40, 50 years, especially the Asian societies, when I look at Thailand, I look at Malaysia, I look at India, I look at Singapore, South Korea, they have a culture of saving. When you save, it will enable investments. When you have investments, that's how you get growth. There is no shortcut to that. If everything you earn is spent and you can get credit, then you live a good quality life, but it is thin. It's like walking on ice. At any time, the ice will crack and you can fall through. You need to think about building a culture of saving. I'm not going to give you a number. Some people save 10%, some people 40%, some people 50%. A big business like Umeme reinvests in its business 50% and cannot declare a dividend more than 50%, because we have to save money to grow the business. A small company like Simba does the same. We try to save some money to keep reinvesting in the same business or diversifying our portfolio, but we cannot spend all the money you make in any given year. So think about it. Think about the tax implications of your business as you grow. Don't be scared of being registered. I encourage everybody to register with Revenue Authority and with Uganda Registration Bureau Services. If you don't make a profit, you don't pay tax. Remember that. And they only tax a certain percentage of your profit. You can go for 5 years not making profits that are worth declaring anything, and they will respect it. File your returns. The day you start making profit, start making your contribution. You have to give back to society. There's a responsibility. You can't work in Kampala, in Uganda, make money and not want to give some back to the country in which you have earned this money. We've seen the fights that some of the companies have had. So I said I would talk a little bit about the Industrial Revolution. The first one was about muscle to steam. The second one was really about electricity. And that was around 1900 when electricity was democratized in America, and then it went through the rest of the world. So most countries got electricity. Until about 1940, 1930s, in Europe, people were still very backward. All the women were washing clothes for their husbands manually. They'd also go down to the stream or the nearest source of water to wash clothes until electricity came. Electricity changed the world. That's the second industrial revolution. Now, Uganda, we've been talking about socio-economic transformation for the last 20 years, but it was a lie. It was a lie. It was never going to happen. Without enough electricity, you cannot transform your people completely. Yes, you made small steps. Quality of life has improved. A bit of piped water here, a bit of roads here, but you didn't have enough electricity. That's why I got an interest into electricity and I set it up. When I got into electricity and then I became the chairman of Umeme, I set up power plants because I saw the key role electricity plays in life. We need to have an abundance of reliable, affordable electricity. Once that happens, other things can fall in place. Before that happens, whatever you are doing will have limitations. So you cannot move unless you have electricity. Now, for the first time with Karuma and Isimba, Uganda has got excess electricity. In the last 50 years, we only had 500 megawatts of electricity, and we grew the demand over 50 years. Now we have 1,000 megawatts, and they expect us to grow the demand in 5 years to absorb that 1,000 megawatts. It's going to take time, but hopefully industrialization will happen much quicker. Now, these benefits of having white goods, these cannot be made in bulk from afar. They can be made cheaply in China, yes, but then shipping them is not economical. So we need to have fridges, cookers, washing machines made nearer to the market. Otherwise, it's not economical to bring them here. In South Africa, the industry of white goods has really taken off, and they have cut through because they had electricity, much as they are struggling with electricity today. But without these white goods, a society does not transform. All these apartments that are coming up, rising, high risers, are going to have a fridge, a TV, a cooking machine, an oven. Some of these basic white goods must be there. So long as there's housing, there's growth, there's urbanization, these goods are necessary. Now, the benefits of a large market like the East African community, now that the DRC is trying to join us in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they're trying to join the East African community. We shall have an addressable market of 255 million people. Now, that's a sizable market. It's worthwhile setting up a factory. Not everybody will buy your fridge or your cooker or your washing machine today or tomorrow, but it's now worthwhile to set up those industries because you can address that market. Out of the 255, even if you take 10%, that's 25.5 million people buying your equipment. Even if you take 1%, that's 2 million people buying your equipment. So these industries become viable. Other industries like the chemical industry is very important. When you look at textiles business, the dyeing industry, it transformed Asia, Malaysia, Bangladesh, all those countries because of textile industry, the apparel industry. Cosmetics and makeup, pharmaceuticals, fertilizers, all these things come from the chemical industry. These things are going to begin happening today. Now, I want to end by asking the team there to play the video, which will emphasize my point of technology. And I thank all of you for listening to me, and good luck in whatever you do, especially those SMEs that are out there. This man called Hans Rosling is a gentleman I invited to Uganda. He had agreed to come and make a presentation to the president here at a presidential investment roundtable. Unfortunately, we postponed the date, so he couldn't come. And a year later, he had died. So he passed away a few years ago, but he was a brilliant professor and a mentor to me. He's one of the guys I really believe everybody should watch this and see the power of how we shall free the youth and the women. Thank you.
I was only 4 years old when I saw my mother load a washing machine for the very first time in her life. That was a great day for my mother. My mother and father had been saving money for years to be able to buy that machine. And the first day it was going to be used, even Grandma was invited to see the machine. And Grandma was even more excited. Throughout her life, she had been heating water with firewood, and she had hand-washed laundry for 7 children. And now she was going to watch electricity do that work. My mother carefully opened the door, and she loaded the laundry into the machine like this. And then when she closed the door, Grandma said, no, let me push the button. And Grandma pushed the button, and she said, oh, fantastic, I want to see this, give me a share, I want to see it. And she sat down in front of the machine, and she watched the entire washing program. She was mesmerized. To my grandmother, the washing machine was a miracle. Today, in Sweden and other rich countries, people are using so many different machines. Look, the homes are full of machines. I can't even name them all, you know. And they also, when they want to travel, they use flying machines that can take them to remote destinations. And yet in the world, there are so many people who still heat the water on fire, and they cook their food on fire. Sometimes they don't even have enough food. And they live below the poverty line. There are 2 billion fellow human beings who live on less than $2 a day. And the richest people over there, that's 1 billion people, and they live above what I call the airline, because they have spent more than $80 a day, on their consumption. But this is just 1, 2, 3 billion people. And obviously there are 7 billion people in the world. So there must be 1, 2, 3, 4 billion people more who live in between the poverty line and the airline. They have electricity. But the question is, how many have washing machines? I've done a scrutiny of market data, and I found that indeed the washing machine has penetrated below the airline, and today there's an additional 1 billion people up there who live above the wash line. And they consume for more than $40 per day. So 2 billion have access to washing machine, and the remaining 5 billion, how do they wash? Or to be more precise, how do most of the women in the world wash? Because it remains a hard work for women to wash. They wash like this, by hand. It's a hard, time-consuming labor, which they have to do for hours every week. And sometimes they also have to bring water from far away to do the laundry at home. Or they have to bring the laundry away to a stream far off. And they want the washing machine. They don't want to spend such a large part of their life doing this hard work with so relatively low productivity. And there's nothing different in their wish than it was from my grandma. Look here, 2 generations ago in Sweden, picking water from the stream, heating with firewood and washing like that. They want the washing machine in exactly the same way. But when I lecture to environmentally concerned students, they tell me, no, everybody in the world cannot have cars and washing machines. How can we tell this woman that she ain't going to have a washing machine? And then I ask my students, I've asked them over the last 2 years, I've asked, how many of you doesn't use a car? And some of them proudly raise their hand, and say, I don't use a car. And then I put the really tough question, how many of you hand wash your jeans and your bed sheet? And no one raised their hand. Even the hardcore in the green movement use washing machine. So how come something that everyone used and they think others will not stop it? What is special with this? I had to do an analysis about the energy use in the world. Here we are. Look here. You see the 7 billion people up there? The air people, the wash people, the bulb people, and the fire people. One unit like this is an energy unit of fossil fuel, oil, coal, or gas. That's what most of the electricity and the energy in the world is. And it's 12 units used in the entire world. And the richest 1 billion, they use 6 of them. Half of the energy is used by 1/7 of the world population. And these ones who have washing machine, but not the house full of other machines, they use 2. And this group use 3, 1 each. And they just have electricity. And over there, they don't even use 1 each. That makes 12 of them. But the main concern for the environmentally interested students, and they are right, is about the future. What are the trends? If we just prolong the trends without any really advanced analysis to 2050, there are 2 things that can increase the energy use. First, population growth. Second, economic growth. Population growth will mainly occur among the poorest people here because they have high child mortality and they have many children per woman, and that you will get 2 extra, but that won't change the energy use very much. What will happen is economic growth. The best off here in the emerging economies, I call them the New East. They will jump the airline, whop, they will say, and they will start to use as much as the Old West are doing already. And these people, they want the washing machine. I told you, they'll go there and they will double their energy use, and we hope that the poor people will get into the electric light and they will get 2-child family, will have a stop in population growth, but the total energy consumption will increase to 22 units. And these 22 units, still the richest people use most of them. So what's needed to be done? Because the risk, the high probability of climate change is real. It's real. Of course, they must be more energy efficient. They must change behavior to some way. They must also start to produce green energy, much more green energy. But until they have the same energy consumption per person, they shouldn't give advice to others what to do and what not to do. here we can get more green energy all over. This is what we hope may happen. It's a real challenge in the future. But I can assure you that this woman in the favela in Rio, she wants a washing machine. She's very happy about her Minister of Energy that provided electricity to everyone. So happy that she even voted for her, you know. And she became Dilma Rousseff, the president-elect of one of the biggest democracies in the world, you know, moving from Minister of Energy to president. If you have democracy, people will vote for washing machines. They love them. And what's the magic with them? My mother explained the magic with this machine the very, very first day. She said, now, Hans, we have loaded the laundry. The machine will make the work. And now we can go to the library. Because this is the magic. You load the laundry, and what do you get out of the machine? You get books out of the machines. Children's books, and mother got time to read for me. She loved this. I got the ABC. This is why I started my career as professor, when my mother had time to read for me. And she also got books for herself. She managed to study English and learn that as a foreign language. And she read so many novels, so many different novels here, you know, and we really loved this machine. And what we said, my mother and me, thank you, industrialization. Thank you, steel mill. Thank you, power station. And thank you, chemical processing industry that gave us time to read books. Thank you very much.
Let's clap for Patrick for that wonderful presentation. But Blessed, there is a question someone is asking here, and I need you to respond in 30 seconds. Are South Africans allowed to open EcoBank? As you mentioned that you don't have EcoBank in South Africa. Blessed?
Yes. Yeah, so we don't have banking operations in South Africa. But my best guess is if this customer has got a business in any of the affiliates where we are operating in, they can still open an account with us. And we do all the due diligence that we do when we open an account, and the account will be ready.
Blessed, you need to respond to this question on behalf of Annette.
Okay.
How does, this is an interesting one, I hope you can manage it. How does EcoBank differ with other banks? And then the person goes ahead to say, like ABSA, FNB, and so on.
Okay, that's a good question. That's a good question, Charles. So
you like it?
Yeah, I like it. It's a good question. It's a very valid question. So we've got an obsession with customer experience at EcoBank. In fact, if you listen to the presenters who did a presentation on Elevate yesterday, one of our strategic pillars for Elevate is to train our clients. We train them to manage even cash flow, for their businesses. We don't just leave it to ending a relationship when a customer opens an account and we leave it to them. We handhold our customers through their business journey. We've got solutions that we present to the client, not just because we want to present a product to a client, but we feel that we have got that passion to want to learn what the business is all about, and also tailor-make solutions that will best suit our clients. So we've got that passion for customer experience, and we'll differentiate ourselves from the players that the person asked because of our customer experience. And we indulge more in knowing what the business is all about and providing solutions that best suit our clients. So even when an SME opens an account today, we make sure that we provide an account relationship manager who looks after that business on a day-to-day basis. And they listen to the customer's needs, they provide need-satisfying solutions to that client, unlike just opening an account and leaving it to the customer to guess what the bank should provide to them. So that's our key differentiator to the players that the question was about. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And another question that was supposed to go to Annette. Someone is asking, one of the participants is asking, does EcoBank offer facility finance to businesses? If so, how much is their threshold?
Yes, we offer facilities to our clients, but that's a function of a number of things. What I can say to that person is let's open the account for them within EcoBank. Let them start doing transactions through us. Let their deposits come through EcoBank, and we can talk of offering a financial facility to the client based on the inflows that are coming to their account. So I cannot give a ballpark figure to say our limit is 10,000 because it all depends on the type of business and the relationship that we have with the client.
Okay, thank you so much, Blessed. Let me now move to Rocky. Rock, how much is the Rock Guardian in the outlets around the country, in the outlets around the country? The second bit of it says, does it require a power source or it has inbuilt power? In 1 minute.
Okay, because we price it depending on the number of cameras you take, depending on sort of what kind of solution you're looking at. So perhaps I could give whoever, the gentleman or lady, a phone number to dial. Then we speak to them and assess precisely what kind of solution they are looking at.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, let him or her dial 0787 350 649 0787 350 649.
Okay.
And then we'll assess exactly what you're looking at, what solution you want, and then give you a pricing and help walk you through, as opposed to just throwing out a number. So
thank you so much.
Thanks, you, sir. Thank
Alex.
you.
Thanks, Alex. So whoever has asked that question, the number to call to inquire more is 0787 350 649. Just call that number and you will be assisted. Our next question is for Tike Bernard. Is Tike Bernard online? Is Tike
Yes,
still with us?
I'm
Hi,
here.
Tike.
Hello, Charles. I'm here.
Hi there. There is a question on quality products to you. The participant is asking, we have a big issue in terms of quality products produced. Not all, but enough to make others wary. The person wants a comment on that from you.
Just so the person is asking that we've got some products, but they're not really quality products. Is that what you're saying? And how
yes,
do we
that's my understanding of it.
And how we overcome that. So what we have to do is produce more quality products. And the thing is, when you look at the concept of creating shared value, and you're looking at setting up your organization, you ensure that you work with your supply chain, you know, in order to create those more, you know, your quality products. So I'm not 100% sure about, you know, the exact reason for the question, but if you want to produce quality products, it's got to come from the strategy of the organization as to how they set it up. Because if you look at EcoBank's strategy, I mean, they are customer centric, so they look at the quality, at the products that they are producing for their clients. So the products that are not quality products that we're producing is not going to, it will sell for a while, but then your consumers are going to find out that it's not a quality product, or it breaks, or you can't use it anymore. So then you would go and look for another product, you know, and that's how you then, you know, lose your market share.
Okay. Then another question that I would want Tike to respond to.
Yeah.
Most knowledge giving centers are based on various hand skills that are very limited in soft skills. How best can such centers embrace soft skills? I don't know whether you understand it.
Yeah, I think I looked at that question because I think what the person is saying is that, and Angela also alluded to that, you get all of this training that you can get for free, but it's all focuses on marketing and on capacity building with finance and how you start your business and everything. But there's a lack of soft skill training. Yet there is soft skill training out there. All you have to do as a young entrepreneur when you're looking for it, you need, as Patrick said, you need to do your homework. You need to go and search for those organizations that are providing soft skill training, because it is very important from a business perspective as well, because you have to bring in the human side. And I think Angela also alluded to that. You have to bring in the human side into business as well, because we've got to look after our employees. We've got to be able, because I think a lot of people today, because of COVID-19, is struggling with mentally, because it's a huge pressure on all of us. And we need those type of training as well, not only, the capacity building from a business perspective, but also from a human perspective as well. And they are out there, but I agree with the question that there's not enough programs as far as that's concerned.
Thank you, TK. I want to transfer one question, which is talking about the education system in Africa, and it's also referring to Uganda, but if you can tackle it from an African perspective. It was meant for Patrick, but you can answer, I needed you to respond to it. Someone says, our current education system is obsolete and not much in the current and needs change, especially with given the rapid technological changes. What's your comment on this?
We've had a good education system for years, but it tends more towards academia, research, and theory. And we are of practical, like agriculture and entrepreneurship has been introduced, but it's still a lot of the theoretical. I think we now need to get into conscious education that teaches people values. It teaches people how to survive in business, in the external world, how to have people management skills, because these are more critical than a lot of the input we get. The initial training we get in primary and to get the basics so that we know where we lie or what we like is very important, but a lot of it has become archaic. And it's becoming archaic because the knowledge management systems are moving so fast. Children now are more adept at using the internet. They have a better grasp of information based on visual. And they are able to get information of watching documentaries or watching a movie. They actually are learned in a different way. I think we need to start going for peer-to-peer education systems. Well, I've seen this happening in Finland. I know there are some case studies in America where the classroom is changed to a practical learning experience as opposed to a teacher-pupil sit and theorize kind of environment. We're also seeing a change in the way children are learning. They have shorter attention spans, but they have a bigger, they're able to grasp more complex ideologies faster. They're able to tell you about technology based on playing video games. We need to embrace the modalities that children are using to learn and incorporate them into the learning. And then lastly, I believe with education, we must go online. I think those who can't catch up are going to have to. If this pandemic is showing the cycles, there's the universal law of cycles. If these cycles are going to reoccur this year, next year, and then 2023, the education system still needs to keep on rolling. So let those who can start, They'll become the flag bearers. Lessons will be learned from the mistakes they make. But I think we need to start the assessments of those who are ready. Others will catch up. We can't move the whole community together in a block, but we can start the building blocks to change the education system. So we appreciate what was learned before, but it was for the industrialization era. And much as we are in the industrialization or beginning the industrialization era in Africa, we still have to embrace all the others, the technological era, and having conscious businesses, conscious education, and conscious families, because then that brings in all those ethos that are not taught, but are critical for us, our survival. I hope that answers you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angela. But there is a final one. One of the participants is asking, their challenges have been talked about on SMEs. Who are to own the interventions and what could be the projected time frame across Africa for networking? Who are supposed to own the interventions and time frame?
Okay, thank you. Now, I chair the private sector foundation, SME and MSME sector on the board, but I've also been working with this, chairing East African Women in Business Platform and Uganda Women Entrepreneurs, and I've also been with on the board of Femcom Comesa, representing Uganda. Now, what we need to know is that SMEs are those that range between 5 to 50 employees, are where the majority of organizations lie. The MSMEs are between 1 and 5 employees with a turnover of about $2,000 maximum. So above $2,000 to $50,000 is where SMEs lie. So we practically have a pin drop above the SME and MSME, medium and large. So we are looking at an entire economy across Africa lying within SMEs. Now, we cannot give responsibility to governments. And this comes really, I'm really strong at advocating for the private sector gearing or pushing the SMEs to excel. The reason is, government and government bodies, government agencies work at a policy level, and therefore they will lead based on implementation of policy and also infrastructure at a larger scale for public good. Private sector does not work at the same level as government, where it seeks what we call a collective receipt of goods and services. You want the roads, yes, but the people who supply the materials for road construction are in the private sector. The people who supply the service, the service providers from all procurement angles are from private sector. So if we are to move SMEs, the private sector must be strengthened from a private sector angle. The private sector moves at a different pace from government. It is not strewn by bureaucracies and red tape, but it also understands that time is money, and they understand that they have to move fast. They expect tenders and bids to move fast. They expect payment to come in fast. They expect corruption to be minimized or completely exited because it eats into profit. So since the private sector understands how to push the SMEs to that next level, that control has to be private sector led. Now, we have very few activists in this sector across the world, especially Africa. We did have many activists when Beijing was taking place. Then we had a lull of many youth who were scared of, having their voices heard. But if we don't hear what people need at an SME level, how then do we advocate for some of these things to be put in play? So we advocate for what can be done, but we need to take the helm and we need to support each other. So my call for SMEs is to get stronger, join groups or associations so that you can advocate for what you're pushing for. We know the manufacturing sector in Uganda has been pushing for changes in the domestic tax stamp policy and some other tax policies that they need remedied, but it's being pushed from the private sector element. So it's a step-by-step arrangement, and it needs the involvement of all the SMEs to come together and cry out for, this is what we need, this is where we want our taxes to go, this is what the policies do for us, what works, what doesn't. And we are then able to change these policies to realistic policies that work on the ground. So I think it's a call for us to come together and ensure that we make private sector grow and make it strong. We've seen it work in the Asian tiger countries. I don't see why it can't work for Africa. However, I must point out that we must get solutions for Africa. It must be an Africa for Africa, because our challenges are strewn with cultural practices. They have issues that have a lot of family involvement, large family involvement. So we need to also build SMEs from a family value-based point of view, as opposed to copying businesses that have grown on different models. So I believe that yes, SMEs can grow, but it's a collective effort, and I'm available if anybody wants to push their SMEs to the next level to give you that guidance. But I think we need more of us to come on board to ensure that the private sector takes the helm. Thank you.
I thanks a lot. Brilliant presentation from all of you, from yourself right now. I want now to take the opportunity to invite Dr. Emmanuel Tumide to come and then give us closing remarks.
I think I just want to thank, the speakers for such an incredible presentations that all of them have made. We are talking about sustainable SMEs focused dialogue. And every speaker has made it clear to us that if Africa has to make a difference, it is going to be driven by the private sector. And speaker after speaker has critically emphasized the need for not just for all of us to have a lot more SMEs to participate in our economies, but also for us to ensure that private sector is giving the needed support, both in terms of policy, but also in terms of making sure that access to finance, access to letter of credits and what have you become necessarily available for SMEs so that we can drive them to the level where we want them to be. So on that score, I want to thank all the speakers. Because of time, I don't want to mention their names, but it's just humbling to see the depth of research, the depth of presentation, and the commitment of these individuals to ensuring that we can take this discussion to the next level. So on that score, I want to say a very, very, very big thank you to all our panelists for the incredible work that they have done. Secondly, this session, this dialogue wouldn't have become a reality if we had not had institutions that partnered with us. And first on the list, I want to thank our title sponsor, EcoBank. If I'm to tell you the appreciation we have for EcoBank for having stood with us from 2019, our time will not allow that. So let me end by saying that we are so incredibly thankful to EcoBank. And my delight is the fact that for many years, it's been very difficult for women to have access to credit. I mean, the statistics show that even when credit is given by women, women are still disadvantaged. But thank God, EcoBank is now focusing on women with the Elevate product. And I want to urge all SMEs, even if you have an account with any other bank, for the purposes of taking your business to the next level, at least be an African and try EcoBank and see the difference between this particular Elevate product. You're not just going to get financing, but you're also going to get continual support digitally, intellectually, systemically, and everything to make sure your business thrives to the next level. We know that when SMEs that are driven by women succeed, it trickles down to the family level. And that is why, for me in particular, I was very excited to learn about this product. So we want to thank EcoBank for taking us on their wings as Human Capital International to make sure that Our story, our vision, our strategic intent for SMEs is taken to the next level. So we thank EcoBank, tremendously for the incredible support. Again, we thank Rock Telecom. We are talking about digitization. Without Rock Telecom, these virtual transmissions that we are having all across for the last 2 days would not have become a reality. And I didn't know that now with Rock Telecom, you don't even have, there are a lot of options that you can have from them. So Rock Telecom, we say kudos to you. And if an SME and you think that digitization is demonic, it's not. Rock Telecom has broken it down for all of us. So let's go to them. Let's make sure that we can use our smartphones, not just for making text messages and what have you, but we can make extra money by the same smartphones that we are using. And Rock Telecom is available to enhance that for all of you there. We want to thank again Jim Roberts. My friend James has been an incredibly fantastic by breaking down, the tax and the tariffs within the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. And we are thanking to them. We also want to thank Uganda, Enterprise Uganda. My friend Chasochichi was incredibly great yesterday, and as an institution, we thank them as well. Then Agricultural Business Initiative. Josephine, if you are hearing me, you guys have been extremely wonderful, and we thank you for your partnership. We also thank Shared Value Initiative in South Africa for that partnership. We thank Event Warehouse. We thank East Africa Business Week Digital, and above all, we thank New Vision Group. I hope I've not left. Sheraton Hotel. Now, this place has been our home since 2019. They've always hosted us, and we want to thank them very much for being part of us. Now, let me end my thanks by saying that this is not the end of the journey. Human capital, our focus is thinking people, promoting SMEs. We want to work with SMEs so we can change the narratives of Africa. So I can assure you that in August, there's going to be another session. We call it Startups Intelligence Series. That is going to run on a monthly basis. So be on the lookout. You're going to be reading a lot more about it. We're going to make sure that the way we run businesses in Africa in terms of models are changed so that we can become profitable, sustainable, and therefore we can leave it for generations that come after us. So from August, you are going to be hearing more about us on that as well. And again, I want to say one more time, thank you very much for all the participants, all the attendees, and every individual that one way or the other supported us to making this a reality. And above all, this would not have become a reality and successful if the Almighty God had not put his hand, his finger, his favor, his grace upon us as all human beings. So we say thank you, Father. Thank you, Lord, for your grace that has brought us this far. If it had not been him, we wouldn't have been here. We say, Ebenezer, this is how far he has brought us. Amen. So on that note, we say thank you. Thank you very much, Charles. Hey, and then you, the moderator, man, you were very fantastic. I almost forgot about you, but Charles, thank you so much for your incredible display of skills and statesmanship. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm honored. I appreciate it.
Father, we want to say a big thank you to you. We want to say thank you for incredible 2 days. We thank you for every presenter, every sponsor, every facilitator, every technical person. Above all, we thank you for Human Capital International that have tirelessly worked to put together this dialogue. We just want to say thank you for even the gift of life and health. And we thank you for everything that has gone so well. We thank you for the whole of Africa, the audience that has tuned in to benefit from these sessions. And we pray a blessing that every woman, every youth, every entrepreneurship effort in Africa shall flourish to the glory of your matchless name. Amen.
Bye-bye.